A year of fast times, origami clues, Thunderlips, Reese's Pieces becoming popular, drawing first blood, slumber party massacres, nonviolent resistance, a burden of dreams, pulling a big-ass boat through the jungle, being a basket case, a death trap, a season of the witch, hanging out with your best friends at the diner while eating Raoul, forcing your fiancé to pass a benign sports trivia test, desperately dressing in drag to get the job you want, and Con! You've entered the world according to Andrew, and I'm going to give you my personal best while we make a real Sophie's Choice with our revised verdicts on this episode. It's time to find out if this is indeed my favorite year, so why don't you just hang out here for a while, and we'll see what happens with 1982. I am your host, Andrew, and I welcome you back to the Revisionist Almanac, the show that gets into the time machine, takes a deep dive into past Academy Awards ceremonies, and determines what the voters got right, and more importantly, what they got wrong. Now, this is the 10th episode of the season, and I have two guests here who I know you've been just dying to have back on the show. That's right. It's been 9 long months since their last dance on the Almanac, but tonight, they're here. Please welcome Tom Duncan and Dana Duncan, co-hosts, co-creators of the Greatest Movie of All Time podcast. Two of my favorite people to talk to. Welcome, gentlemen.
Well, which one of us is going to go?
I was waiting for you. You're the lead.
You
always claim to be the lead, so go ahead.
Well, I mean, whatever. And don't shortchange us. It's been 10 months by the time this comes out.
Okay. 9 months from recording at this moment.
Yeah. Anyway.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us back after our illustrious, particularly myself, career in season 1 as the go-to wrestling heel of your show.
You put in the work.
I definitely made everyone hate me last season.
You have a knack for it.
Oh, yeah. Most definitely.
Yeah, I mean, you were on basically 50% of that first season, so it's been a real void not seeing you on a monthly basis this year. It's been kind of weird, even though, you know, behind the scenes we talk literally every day. That
is true. Even with this appearance, I will still have been on 1/4 of your episodes through this season. So just let that sink in, audience.
That's true. And I'm going to pull the curtain back a little bit. For people who don't know, Dana was a last-minute situation today. I know he's been battling a little bit of illness, but I am so glad that he is here with us because there'd be nothing worse than like knocking out 25 to 30 movies and then not being able to actually make the appearance at that point.
Yes. Well, and in large part, let me just ask this. I will claim to be possibly your oldest guest.
At least for probably another couple of months.
Because of the movies that I had down, 20 of them that I looked at and watched, or at least watched portions of, a lot of them were not worth watching again. I think I had seen 14 of them in theaters and another 5 on HBO afterwards for the first time, like within the first 6 to 9 months. So some of these I have not seen since 1982.
So to be fair, and we'll kind of take you through this selection process of what year we were going to do. When originally you extended the additional offer post 1942, at which point, given what the numbers are likely to have included for that particular year, I'm surprised we ever got an invite back, but whatever. We're still here. Anyway, we did 2 specific years that I let my dad pick, or that I thought would be particularly special to him because he'd been talking about them for a while. One we already did back at the end of last season with 1967, specifically designed as a conversation piece, particularly stemming from the one book that we talked about during that episode that my dad had read, and so he was very intrigued to revisit that particular Oscars race, sans Dr. Dolittle. And then for 1982, I'm 35 now. At least 25 years, I've been hearing Tootsie got robbed from my dad. because this was his senior year of high school. So I picked these 2 years on his behalf. And if you are not interested in listening to this episode, you can blame him.
Well, like I said, I've seen all these. I mean, between high school, the summer before college, and into college, my first semester, I would see movies all the time because it's about the only thing there was to do in my hometown. And if I went home on the weekends from college, which I did periodically, there was absolutely nothing to do except to go to the movies. So it was not uncommon for me to see one movie on Friday and another movie on Saturday. So I spent a lot of time there.
Now,
Yeah. What do you got for me, Tom?
I just want to address the other elephant in the room here.
Please do.
The difference between season 1, Tom, who was a caricature, and season 2, Tom, that's going to be more modifying or moderating, let's say. And I will liken it to the difference between Stephen Colbert from The Colbert Report and from The Late Show, where he was no longer really in character, but he could let more of his own personality out. I know most of you expect me to come in here like a wrecking ball and be a wrestling heel character as I was for most of season 1. On 2005, particularly with my first monologue that lives in infamy, 2014, 1942, and particularly 1967 that definitely ruffled some feathers. However, let me take my mask off going forward. I've squashed all my beefs, and this will be my version of a tribute song. Andrew is my closest friend in podcasting. When you are picking friends, you want someone who is always trying to make you better, but also cheering you on as you are striving for something greater. Andrew is literally everyone's biggest cheerleader, and that's why most people adore him. It's frankly a skill that I lack, which my dad will attest to. Nevertheless, he expects more out of me than I do out of myself. Knowing him is willing to be challenging of yourself, your own sense of identity, and your own sense of what you can be. He's a wonderful communicator, community builder, and I am proud to have him as my friend. I'll quickly share an anecdote that I know by this point, when this episode releases, most people will already know the Cinema Legacy Poll project that Dana and I created, but it literally would not exist without Andrew. Once we originally came up with it, or Dana came up with the idea, I spent another 5 minutes basically fleshing out the idea with him, or the concept. And my next step was texting Andrew because, one, I knew we'd get immediate cheerleading, which we did. I believe it was something to the effect of, I love all these big ideas from Dana, which if you've ever been in a DM conversation with Andrew, you know you've gotten that almost exact text. It's like almost verbatim. And two, that he'd help support us getting this off the ground and finding other people to help support it. So as much as Dana and I can take credit for the idea, and I try to take no credit because I am the world's worst self-promoter, there is no bigger single person responsible for that project than Andrew. So, while I definitely have some hot takes for tonight, and I appreciate that Andrew has created a safe space here for us all to share our opinions without the regular judgment of the internet or film Twitter, I don't plan on teasing anyone directly. There will be no gongs this evening about any of their personal opinions or calling anyone out by name. That will not happen anymore. Again, we've squashed our beefs. However, since all of you know me, I will likely put my foot in my mouth somewhere in this episode because that's just who I am. I consider myself one of the world's best apologizers because I have a ton of self-guilt and a lot of practice in apologizing. So with that, let the games begin.
I'm much more comfortable when I'm getting roasted than getting praised. So thank you. That was very nice of you, Tom. It was very uncomfortable to sit through such praise, but thank you.
I know you and I are very much similar in that regard because
I was trying to get off a frame because it was really hard to take such niceties my way, but thank you.
I should have almost had your wife come down, even like if we obscure her picture off of the video screen, just so she could hear that. But it's all right. She can wait a month.
Yes, and she still won't listen.
Well.
All right, well, let's get into
Dana knows how that feels.
Yes, Yes, we've all been there.
Yeah.
All right, let's get we got a jam-packed episode. We got a bunch of new stuff on the way, so we will get right into it. It's just worth reminding, the show looks back on past Academy Award ceremonies with the luxury of hindsight to determine what should have won the Oscar for Best Picture, Best Director, and the 4 acting categories. And before we start things off, I hope you take time to rate and review the show on whatever podcast platform you're using right now, as well as finding and following me on every social media handle using Rev Almanac. That's the handle. Okay, so 1982. For those who might not be familiar with that specific year, the Best Picture was, of course, Richard Attenborough's historical epic, Gandhi, right here in my hands.
You own a copy.
I indeed do own the 25th anniversary, which I probably picked up at the annual book fair for 10 cents. I can't exactly remember where I grabbed it.
Let me just say, I'm going to be on the bandwagon this episode for making that a Criterion Collection movie.
I wouldn't hate it, honestly. I mean, if you got The Last Emperor in the Criterion Collection, I don't know why Gandhi's...
Argument number 1, right there.
There we go. Let's make it happen. I will be. I'll cut that out as a reel. Tag Criterion. We'll see what we can do.
Last Emperor I wanted to see.
You've not seen Last Emperor yet?
No, I have. And I'm sorry that I did.
Oh. I'll be tackling 1987 in like 4 months' time from now, so I will save all my Last Emperor shots, which there will be plentiful amounts of for that episode.
I'll just yawn. I'll start now, so I don't have to wait.
I hope there was something redeeming about that year.
There's a lot of good stuff in 1987, but it's not The Last Emperor. Spoiler alert.
Might I just ask a weird question? Yeah. Again, a peek behind the curtain.
Mm-hmm.
We are in 82. You have what year coming up next? 2003?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And then you have 73?
73, right? Yeah.
And then what is after that?
2007.
Okay.
1987.
All right. So how far out into prep are you right now?
So we are recording this in September, and I am currently prepping for 2012, which will be recording in like April.
What the fuck, man?
So how can you even remember what you're watching?
So there's a method to the madness. What I do is I will like 5 or 6 months out, knock out the bulk of the prep, and then about 2 weeks out from the actual recording, I will pull like the 7 or 8 that I really need to go back into one final time. So there are certain movies that I'll be praising more than others tonight, and those are the ones that leading up to it I'll watch another time. So that's the state of my world.
So you've only watched these movies twice for prep instead of your normal 5 times?
Correct.
Okay. Just what?
I am very disappointed.
Well, I mean, quite honestly, and we'll talk about it, a lot of these 1982 movies have lived repeatedly in my world, and the ones that haven't, there's a good reason for it. There's a reason why some of these first-time watches will be only-time watches. But we do have to note, there is one movie we're not going to be talking about tonight. It's kind of disappointing to me, but we do have to mention it. So you will not hear from any of the 3 of us about Martin Scorsese's The King of Comedy. I know it's often listed everywhere as a 1982 film on Letterboxd, you name it. The U.S. release was February 1983, which will make it eligible for the 1983 film year when I eventually tackle that on the show at some point in the future. So don't expect to hear The King of Comedy tonight.
One other one that I'll mention here and throw out, just because there are people that are deep cut cinephiles that will be potentially asking about it because it was released technically, but not in the United States in 1982. That's Fanny and Alexander, which was nominated the following year. So we will also not be covering that. And frankly, my dad thanks you for not having to invest 6.5 hours in that.
Yeah.
Apologies to whoever picks up 1983 in terms of endearment.
You know, if you're sick in bed, you can finish 3 films, including Das Boot, in one day. So,
yeah, we dodged a bullet with Fanny and Alexander, which is not an indictment on that movie's quality. It's just that's a lot of time commitment that I wasn't in the mood for this particular prep year that we're in.
Yeah.
Now you guys have been on the show multiple times in the past, so I don't need to like rehash with you guys like what's your prep routine or what kind of. Let's get into the juicy stuff right now. So let's start with a spicy take, if you've got a spicy take, or just a straight bad movie you want to throw under the bus, or if there's something that you want to highlight that maybe is not going to get mentioned down the road tonight. So it's not going to get in your nominees, but you just want to like kind of highlight it. So spiciest take, bad movie, something that's you just want to throw out there. Jump in whenever. Dana, go to you first.
Okay, I'll start with this one, which is a film that I actually liked. I saw it in the theater. I had a date. I took her in Chicago. I was in school in Chicago my freshman year. Took her to this film, First Blood. But I will, for a spicy take, say that Sylvester Stallone acts best when he does not talk. Okay? First Blood's great as long as he doesn't speak. The minute he does, it loses it. The second take on that is I personally think Brian Dennehy was a very underrated actor, because not only did he look or do really well in First Blood, Silverado was still one of my favorites. I got to meet Brian Dennehy. I told him this stuff, and he was like, well, that was 20 some years ago. But anyway, so that's mine. And so First Blood I enjoyed. It will not get any real nominations or anything more than just to say that Stallone being Stallone, well, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to throw out a new version of the question since, again, you mentioned that we have been on multiple times. And I think there's at least a semi-relevant question that we can ask for multiple time guests that is slightly deviation off of what we normally do here. Because normally you talk about like your worst movie and how you prepped and other stuff. And I'll just say, this being my 6th episode, technically, the whole I've got to watch 80 movies for 1 year, just no, I'm good. I think I watched 26, 27 for this project, and I watched all the relevant ones. I don't need to watch Porky's and The Dark Crystal to really feel like I got 1982 as a whole. Sorry. You know,
both of those.
I didn't finish Tron. I didn't finish Conan the Barbarian. I got what they were about, and then I'm like, yeah, okay, I understand this. Now we can move on. But, and I will exclude these 5, okay? There were 5 original nominees for Best Picture. Gandhi, E.T., Missing, Tootsie, and The Verdict. Outside of those, is there one movie from this year that you would recommend that everybody has to watch?
Are you posing this to me on the spot right now?
I am posing this to all of us. So if you want me to go first, that's fine.
Please do.
I would say if there's one other movie from this year that I was really impressed by, that I really feel like people should give a chance to, it's Diner. I know that's not the one, like The Thing and Blade Runner will come up, I would assume, for either Andrew or maybe my dad, although I don't think either of those are particularly his cup of tea. But Diner is one that's kind of like one of those early indie filmmaker ones that's about people kind of growing up, and there's nothing particularly special, but it's just a fun hang vibes movie.
I agree on the Diner. The only other one that I would point out is I think everybody should see Das Boot. I know that it's 3.5 hours, and in German, it's going to take somebody with some patience. I thought I enjoyed both films tremendously. And I thought both were worthy of a nomination, and I think both would have been nominated if there would have been more than 5 nominations.
I think that's likely true, given that Wolfgang Petersen was nominated for director. Like, there are very rare occurrences where you're nominated for director and then not for picture. And even now, that makes, like, the crossover is even less of a weird occurrence. Like, we got that in Another Round a couple of years ago, where Vinterberg was nominated for director, but Another Round was not nominated for picture, which, frankly, it probably should have been. But we'll leave that for whomever is on. I think that is that the 2021 episode?
Correct, which will be next season.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll throw out Fast Times. Just it's like it's an encapsulation of the era. If you want to know what 1982 looked like, watch Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I think you'll kind of get a general idea of 82.
Okay.
And I'm trying not to tip my hand to anything later.
Let's just say that was my last place finishing film.
Ooh.
Of all the ones that I finished, I will say I would probably have had Tron and Conan below it, but it is my last place finishing film. I did not find much redeeming about that film at all. I didn't like most of the characters. The minute Cameron Crowe's name popped up as the writer on screen, I literally went, oh no. Which I find stunning that we just recently did an episode that unfortunately Dana was sick for, but for Almost Famous, and I loved that movie.
Yes.
I was shocked that I loved that movie. So this is not even as personal as it has been for me with Cameron Crowe, because I think Jerry Maguire is also very overrated. But that movie is just like, why?
Well,
go ahead, Andrew. I mean,
it's in no way, shape, or form my favorite sort of like high school movie or coming of age movie, but I do think there's a lot to take out of it. Again, for the time period, the Rewatchables has a great episode on it. I'm not going to rehash stuff that people have talked about with this movie many, many times, but it's far from being the worst thing on my list. I will guarantee you that. Thanks to Dana for making me watch one specific movie, which I went in with the most open of mind one could go into a movie, because I thought there's no way in the world that this movie's as bad as Dana claims it is. And yet I tell you, my friends, it's worse. That's Personal Best, which is absolute garbage. I could not believe I was watching this movie, and I toughed it out all the way through for you, Dana. And I've already started blocking it from my memory.
And Roger Ebert gave it 4 stars.
What?
I don't know what the hell he was doing. I mean, it's abysmal. Not just to mention the fact that it's so stereotypical that the female athletes are lesbians. Right. That the story itself is so dry and dull. I did not watch it again. I just read the review and went, oh, I remember every minute of this film. I saw it once and thought at the theater, and then I'm like, it couldn't have been that bad. So I watched it again on HBO about 6 months later and said, oh my God, it's worse. Because now, I mean, I don't even have popcorn to eat while I'm doing this. Bad.
All I kept thinking was after school special of the lowest quality. That's what it felt like. Like the framing of the movie, the quality of film, everything about it, the acting, it was dreck. There are not a lot of movies where I'm just going to say that there is like zero qualitative substance to it. Personal Best deserves to be like lost in time and buried forever. I can't believe I had to watch that. I did, though. I did, for you, Dana.
He suggested it originally and said we should try and play this up to make Andrew watch this abominable dreck as a joke and see if he'll do it.
And then I was
going to I even told you it was a joke.
I love this film. It's the greatest thing ever.
And then you still watched
the hand.
Oh
my God.
Okay.
And Mariel Hemingway. She can't act.
It was rough. And on the other end of the spectrum, a movie that was quite fascinating, yet equally worst movie for me, The World According to Garp. Okay. We don't have enough time in a day to unpack what that movie is. I don't have words for The World According to Garp. It was like, I felt pinballing around the whole movie I had no idea what was happening, scene to scene, tone to tone, character to character. None of it made sense. It was the most nonsensical movie I've watched in prep in a long, long time.
It's the best single version of acting for an illogical script that I think I've ever seen. There are great acting performances in it. It will come up tonight by just benefit of the fact that there are not a lot of female acting or lead acting performances, and there at least is one by my definition in here. and there's at least some others that come up in some stuff. But other than that, like, Robin Williams is a good actor in this movie. Glenn Close is a good actor in this movie. But trying to follow it from scene to scene and figure out what the point of this movie is just, I don't know. If you can figure it out and you want to tell me, please.
This is a film that I watched on HBO with my dad. Okay? We sat there and got through about a third of the film, and my dad looked over at me and he said, "Do you understand what the hell this is? Because this is the stupidest shit I think I've ever seen." He said, "If you want to keep watching it, go in your bedroom. I'm going to bed." And so I went back into my bedroom and finished watching it and went, okay. And then he said, "Did it get any better?" I said, "No, it seemed to get worse."
To be fair, you have other movies that you've related from the time period that went very similarly, and then you have now coined the term 3-day movie.
Yep.
One of them being Blue Velvet was kind of like that, but at least Grandpa finished that movie.
Correct. Blood Simple, too.
But Garp is not Blue Velvet.
No. And this was not a 3-day movie. This was 3 days and going, what the hell was that I just watched?
Garp's a 3-month movie where, like, months later, I'm still trying to understand what's happening. I do want to watch it again to try to, like, it was so interesting. It wasn't good, but it was interesting.
Well, I'm wondering.
I'm sorry. I cannot rewatch it for the simple fact that I would have to go back through the dick biting scene again.
I was trying to tiptoe around that specific moment, but wow.
That was at least the funniest part of the film.
That was funny?
Well, when John Lithgow goes, well, at least I had mine surgically removed. That made me chuckle, but still. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I let's just put it this way. I'm questioning whether I got ill about the same time I was watching Garp.
It checks out. There's a correlation there, probably.
There seems to be some level of correlation, but that is not even my worst film. I remembered as I started looking at it and watching, I got it, hold of it, and rented it and watched 20 minutes of it, and then remembered, because I've always said there's only been 2 films that I've almost walked out on. St. Elmo's Fire and Moulin Rouge. Well, I remember there's a third. And it was Tron.
Interesting. Oh, Tron, yeah, okay.
Yes.
You didn't even have to rent that.
Oh, well, okay.
It's available on Disney for free.
Well, I rented it. Anyway, so it was a waste of money.
Yeah.
I know. I love Jeff Bridges. I thought Jeff Bridges was a great actor. And, they were talking about all the special effects and all this, and I thought it was going to be great. And I went to it, and I sat, and I'm pretty sure I saw it with my friend Eric, and who's a big sci-fi guy, and we're both looking at each other going, whoa. And I think I might have even dozed off at one point during the film because it had so little interest. And then I'm like, should we leave? And then we're like, nah, I don't like paying money and walking out. But no matter what. But anyway, so yes.
Tron is 1982's version of Avatar. It's a computer-generated movie made by a less competent director.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it also kind of reminds me of Logan's Run from '76, just in terms of, like, it's such a product of its time technologically that it doesn't really lend itself. Like, when I go back and watch it, I'm like, wow, it's really flawed in terms of just we have left that era behind from, like, a visual effects standpoint. I am intrigued by Tron Ares, the new film that's coming out in 2025, but it really has no connection to me being a Tron head or anything. I'm certainly not in that side. I'm going to throw out a couple of movies that they will not get mentions from me tonight, and one of them will probably disappoint Tom, but they're enjoyable movies that I have watched many times in my life that just aren't going to make the cut. Rocky III, which it's maybe 1 or 1A for my favorite Rocky movie. Not the best, but my favorite. There's a difference there.
Mm-hmm.
So Rocky 3 is not going to get nominated as much as I enjoy it. And then Conan the Barbarian. Tom, apparently you didn't finish it, but I remember seeing it a lot as a kid, at least on cable, and I have the DVD. And what I forgot from my cable watches, which were heavily edited, I forgot how many boobies there were in that movie. That was my note. I thought Arnold was getting really busy back in the day, because in Conan he is having some fun. So I had a good time going back to Conan.
Yeah.
Rocky 3 will come up yet tonight.
I assumed. Yes.
More for like nominations than winning anything. I'll just time that right now, but I personally am a Rocky 3 over Rocky 4 person. I think that most people have kind of that internal debate. We recognize that the original Rocky's probably, from a cinematic quality, the best until probably Creed, which I would probably argue, if you say that's a Rocky movie, is probably the best Rocky movie that's been made to this point, even though Rocky itself won Best Picture. I also would probably put up Rocky Balboa, the sixth one, as like a really underrated quality movie that actually had a decent script to it. But Rocky 3 is the most fun of any of them, with the most exuberant characters for me. And I didn't participate nearly in all of the Cold War jingoism of the Reagan era to really appreciate, if I can change and you can change.
I started laughing. I had half the theater pissed at me. I just was laughing because I'm like, this is so bad. This is so ridiculous. Let's just thump our chest. We're America. We're great, no matter what.
Yeah, it's pretty transparent. No doubt about that.
Yeah. He never hit it.
All right,
I'm going to just mention two films that I really enjoyed when I saw them in theaters and then watching them again. First is Night Shift. I really liked Night Shift. I love Henry Winkler. I loved Michael Keaton, and I'll use the correct full name, Michael Keaton Douglas, which is apparently he's trying to get people to start using.
Oh.
But he's best when he's that scheming, wisecracking schmuck. Now he's become much more of a serious actor, but back then he was kind of fun. Ron Howard, Shelley Long. Ron directed it. I think it was his second film, or was his first film?
Ron Howard?
I don't remember. Yeah.
I think it was his first.
Boy, I mean, I can try and...
I think they would only let him direct if he could get Henry Winkler in it. And so,
I mean, it's pretty early on, if I remember. So...
Yeah. And so I really enjoyed that film. It's small. It's not the greatest script. But it's not a bad film. It's fun. And then My Favorite Year. I really enjoyed that film. And really, if you're not aware, the basis of the film is it's semi-autobiographical of Mel Brooks when he was with Your Show of Shows and working for Sid Caesar. The guy the writer who never speaks was Neil Simon, who wrote The Odd Couple, who was renowned for never saying anything in meetings. He'd whisper his story ideas to Carl Reiner in the writing room, who would then present them because he couldn't speak up. So, but I just love that film. And Peter O'Toole was based on Errol Flynn from a guest appearance he did on Show of Shows. So, but it was kind of fun. I really liked the film. I think Richard Benjamin, who was an actor at the time, this was his first film that he directed. I thought he did a very nice job. He did a few other films, Money Pit, Mermaids, but I thought it was a nice film.
That was one of thing I saw him in was he was like the cousin of that CNN family in Succession. Like you look him up now and he looks nothing like what he appears in My Favorite Year. But that would be a fun one that I'm not giving any nominations to. There were a couple of people that got a little bit close that might be in like honorable mentions, but that was a fun, more or less film to kind of get to, especially early on in the process. in answer to your question, it is technically Ron Howard's second movie, but it's probably the only one that most people credit because the other one is called Grand Theft Auto. It was directed by Ron Howard, written by Ron Howard and Rance, and starring Ron Howard with Nancy Morgan and Elizabeth Rogers. It's 84 minutes from 1977.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think who produced it. Yeah, it was made on a shoestring budget.
You can definitely tell if you watch any of the trailers here on IMDb. But anyway, the other film that I would like to give just a small smidgen of, let's say, cheekiness to it. It won't come up in any nominations. I am glad that I watched it because there was technically in the year that this came out a nomination for it. And there is one person who just barely missed a nomination from me tonight. So that's why I can talk about this film ahead of time. But The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. I know Andrew told me, yeah, don't bother your time with that. But it was a fun movie, even if it was culturally inappropriate. It doesn't age well, but Dolly Parton ages well. Mm-hmm. That's about as good as it gets.
It's breezy.
I can see why Charles Durning got nominated for that performance because he does something completely out of character in that movie. So,
yeah, it's not a bad movie. To Dana's point, my favorite year was a first time watch for me, and I got like 40 or 50% of the way through, and I started doing my Wikipedia researching of the movie as I was watching it. And when I saw the thing about Mel Brooks, it clicked into place where I was like, oh, obviously that's Mel Brooks on, like the movie transformed for me once I knew the backstory. And then I was like, oh, okay, I'm enjoying this for the behind the scenes stuff. And it all kind of worked in a much better fashion. So I'm glad that I was able to do this prep year for that first time watch. One of a handful of first time watches that did stand out to me, which I'll get to some of those in a little bit.
All right. Are you ready for me to be an arsonist?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay. Would you rather me start with Tootsie or Blade Runner?
What exactly are we burning down right now? Just the movie in general?
Just pick one of those two.
Okay, let's go easy on me. Tootsie.
Okay. Tootsie is not a feminist film. My dad has been championing Tootsie for 25 years, by my recollection at this point. It is for a movie for men who want to claim they're feminist because they think that Dustin Hoffman changes by the end of the movie. He does not. He gets revealed and then they just kind of accept what he did and they move on. He's just as bad as all of the other misogynistic men in the movie. He uses a position of privilege and privileged information to try to bed Jessica Lange, who is in a vulnerable position. And then he just kind of like, well, oh, please forgive me at the end of the movie. And we just kind of go along with it because it's 1982. The real feminist of the movie is Charles Durning. He is in a much better position and, despite his old-fashioned values, seems to actually, I don't know, respect women. Just maybe. And people, I don't understand what Dustin Hoffman's doing in this movie. Like, he has this attitude where he doesn't like anybody in that movie. Like, I don't understand what that character's supposed to be. Are we supposed to be changing with him? Are we supposed to be somehow, like, the movie is based off of Black Like Me, except that it doesn't take any of the lessons of Black Like Me, and it just tries to make it into a comedic thing where a guy's playing a woman, and that's funny.
You have to understand, it's 1982. That's about the best guys could get from being feminists. I shouldn't say that, but I'm being honest. I mean, 1982 was a much different time. Okay. And I mean, it was,
it was peak Donald Trump era.
Well, when, what guys were doing in high school and were getting away with and such, and being called studs and all that. No, it would not even come close. I mean, you would be with handcuffs in custody with most of that stuff now.
Yeah,
But this is
Fast Times does not
1982.
age well for that.
No, that is exactly the case. And so, but that's, again, it's 1982. I mean, I could tell you stories from high school that are really good, but you would have to
Let's
really
keep the
jack up
temperature
ratings
down.
or
Rev Almanac After Dark.
yeah.
Oh. It would be like Taxi Cab Confessions here.
Yeah, just about.
Oh boy.
All right, hit me with your terrible Blade Runner opinion real quick, so I can get that.
Okay.
I'll put my armor up for a minute.
All right. So, which version did you watch for this prep?
For this particular prep, I watched the final cut.
Yeah. Okay, and so did both of us.
Okay,
because that was the best one available. So, I object to the final cut being available for nomination tonight because the final cut was not released till 2007.
Okay. Fair.
So if you have to nominate it, you have to nominate it for the incoherent theatrical cut with the weird voiceover.
You got it. I can do that.
Okay, and that's the one that I saw back on HBO in like 1983 and watched about 25 minutes, half an hour, and said, I'm not going to sit through this. So
right. I
this
relinquish...
was not so bad. The final cut was, I mean, wasn't that bad.
No, it's much more coherent.
Yeah.
Okay,
so I relinquish all control back over to you on your show.
Okay, all right, a little bit of arson.
I know I have a tendency to take over.
All right. This is the good opportunity, though, to jump into something entirely new, which is a new segment of the show. It's going to become a regular monthly thing. I know people have been clamoring for this for a while, but I've got to give credit where credit's due. So I've got to throw out the people that put this idea into my head a year ago, literally, and they told me to introduce it on this particular episode. So I am following suit with what Betsy and Trent Gorham over at Never Seen It Podcast told me to do. So I give you the Gorham Award for egregious oversight. So going forward on the show, each guest and myself has the opportunity, but not obligated to look at one category. So one of the 6 categories that we're not going to cover here, so one of the below the line things, we are going to determine if what won is incorrect in our opinion, and then we're just going to give our revised selection for what should have won. Then those revised selections will battle the actual online winners, and whatever gets the most vote goes into the Almanac in the new wing for the Gorham Award for egregious oversight. This is also the perfect bridge to an upcoming decades draft I'm going to be doing twice a year. More on that soon, which will have a wildcard component where we're going to be drafting winners of categories that aren't picture, director, acting. So this kind of ties into that. So I'm going to go first, and then I'll let the two of you jump in if you have one. And I'm going to literally pull the same one that Betsy and Trent told me to pull, which I agree with here. So we're going to call out art direction first and foremost on this right here. Or it's now referred to as production design, but art direction was what it was called then.
Yeah.
So the winner in 1982 was Gandhi. Perfectly fine movie for art direction, production design. This was one of its 8 Oscars. But the winner, obviously, clearly, should have been Ridley Scott's Blade Runner. If you're going to pull one component of Blade Runner as the defining thing of that movie, it's probably the production design, the art design of that movie. And to quote Betsy gave me this message, like I said, a year ago. She and Trent watched Blade Runner for their podcast. They found out in real time that Gandhi had won production design, and both of them found it absurd. However, Betsy and Trent did tell me, full disclosure, they had not seen Gandhi, so they would let us speak to if it deserved it or not. Blade Runner obviously deserves it. So I'm going to nominate that. So there will be an online vote for Blade Runner versus Gandhi. Production design will let people decide. Tom, you got anything you want to jump in with a Gorham Award?
Sure. I also had art direction. I think it was like the top nominee on the board, frankly. The other one, which I'll kind of avoid here because it's kind of the same thing, but visual effects. I would also have Blade Runner over E.T. because you watch the 2 movies basically back to back. It's not that E.T. is necessarily bad, but the graphics and the visual effects, you can definitely feel the age, where I don't really get that from Blade Runner. I think that even though it's got some age spots to it, it still doesn't take me out of the movie in the way that some of the visual effects with E.T. does. But I will focus on a couple of others. I had a couple of other nominees here. Foreign language film. How does Das Boot not begin the Beguine? So I'll leave that one for my dad. But mine is going to be answering a direct listener question. And I'm going to take original song, Eye of the Tiger, over Up Where We Belong. I know that they were both big songs at the time, but there's only one song that has actually, I don't know, been heard in the last 40 years, and it's Eye of the Tiger.
I figured you were going to go that direction, which is the right direction to go.
Yeah.
All right, so they get to vote for original song and art direction so far. Dana, what do you got?
Yeah, well, I was going to do the how Das Boot did not get nominated for Best Foreign Film, but
go ahead and do it.
I guess that's fine. I'll do that one. I mean, I had a couple of other ones. I'll go ahead and say that because it made no sense. I mean, you get the guy gets nominated for Best Director, you get nominated for Best Film Editing, and then you don't even get nominated at all, let alone win the category for Best Foreign Film. It makes no sense. I mean, that one doesn't. But an honorable mention, and I'm kind of deviating from the categories per se, but do you know who got the honorary award at that Academy Award?
Well, I mean, there were a couple of them, but yes.
The primary one?
So, let's see here. Mickey Rooney.
Married 7 times, renowned for being abusive to his co-stars and to his directors, renowned for being drunk a lot on set, renowned for playing a Japanese man in
Breakfast at Tiffany's, one of the
Breakfast
most
at
culturally
Tiffany's.
inappropriate film roles ever.
Mickey Rooney got the honorary award, Lifetime Achievement Award.
Okay, so if you had to pick somebody else to honor, because you have to substitute.
Well, boy, I mean, there was just off the top of my head. I saw that and I'm like, Mickey Rooney. I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, I guess I don't have anybody else, but still.
Okay, so you're going foreign language film.
Yep.
I think that there's a good chance we've yet to have a single vote on the show in the better part of 2 years where it's been 100% to 0. That might be our category. I don't know if there's anybody aside from the three of us, if all three of us watched Begin the Beguine or however the hell you pronounce that. But that movie was also very, very, very far at the bottom, nearing personal best territory. Not an enjoyable experience. All right, so we got three different categories that will go to Gorham Awards. Thank you again, Betsy and Trent, for bringing that. And again, every month going forward, we'll throw some nominations out there for below the line spots where we can correct some things. Before we get into categories, I want to give Tom an opportunity. I know Tom always comes prepared with trivia and surprises. Tom, do you want to jump into any trivia that you have before we get into the actual categories, or you want to just dive right in?
Before we get to that, did we want to do any yearly themes, or are we just going to, for the sake of time, skip right over that?
It's up to you. Yeah, if you got any themes you want to throw out there, go for it.
Well, I mean, I prepared them, but I don't really have any. That's part of it. Like, unlike the geopolitical situations that affected 2005 and 1942 that were rather obvious, and the changing of the guard in Hollywood around 1967, this year in film just doesn't feel like it's much a part of any other major trends. I know we selected this because of Dana's nostalgia for his senior year of high school, like some people tend to have. I mean, I guess I have some of that. But I don't think the Reagan years had fully baked into the jingoism yet, or did we have many of the, nor did we have many of the 70s family drama era stuff that was still kind of lingering at the end, where we got Kramer versus Kramer and Ordinary People like back to back. I mean, we had a little bit of it, but it wasn't like there. We hadn't gotten into the major kind of fantasy sci-fi blockbusters quite yet. I mean, we got a little taste of it, but not like on the same level. So you might be able to say that this is a year of directors taking another crack at stuff they had already kind of covered. Spielberg, I think there's overlap between E.T. and Close Encounters that is definitely there or influenced one way or the other. You could say that John Carpenter kind of did a little bit of a different take between The Thing and Halloween as to how those two movies go. But I think even that's maybe grasping at straws. What I would guess my biggest takeaway for the year is I think this is a cinema regurgitation year, in that what we thought was good in hindsight wasn't the best. And once we allowed some time and space to digest the year as a whole, so that once it came back up, we found what was actually the best stuff of the year.
I would modify that slightly, having
Okay.
lived through that time frame. We'd come out of the Vietnam War. There were a lot of very heavy anti-Vietnam War films in the late 70s. We had the whole collapse, really, of the Carter administration towards the end, and the Iranian hostage crisis and such. There was a loss of prestige in the United States. 1982 is a year of escapism. It's light comedies. It's light stories. The few stories that had impact, Missing, for example, even that was about the
anti-authoritarianism, political situation. First Blood has kind of a anti-Vietnam bent to it. Gandhi is pacifism. I get you.
Yeah, it's kind of at that transition. We're trying to come to terms yet with the war. We're trying to avoid stuff. We're trying to figure out where we are as a nation. And I think that that's what we tended to migrate towards. And, with Missing, which was probably by far the most impactful story, this was just one of several where Jack Lemmon decided to use his fame to state his liberalism. The China Syndrome he had done before this. This was another film along those lines, pointing out the difficulty of the overthrow of the Chilean government by the CIA in 1974. And but even that, it's always being done in the, we're coming to terms with who we are, and this just furthers our belief that not everything in this country is a ripe, wonderful fruit.
Yeah, if I had a takeaway, I'm not going to dive in too much, but like as I mentioned on last month's episode on 1981, I said there's sort of this 1991. Thank you. I can't keep my years straight anymore. 1991.
Is that because you're 8 months out in prep?
A little bit, yes. I get Freudian slips all the time. But I always say there's like this gulf between 1980s movies where there's the stuff nominated and the good stuff, and they don't cross over that often. I don't know if that's necessarily the case in 1982. I do think there's a lot of good stuff nominated, but I think when you do look at the top and you look at Gandhi, and I'm not taking a shot at Gandhi, and I'll talk about Gandhi at a later point, but I think if you just look at the totality of the 10 films that win Best Picture in the 80s, there's certainly a theme, a general idea of what all those movies kind of collectively are, barring maybe one or two of them, the Platoons of the world or whatever. But for the most part, they're sort of kind of in a similar box, and I don't think any other decade has a box as tight where all the movies sort of fit into that. And that's just kind of my take. There's sort of a general idea of they're not sweeping epics, but they're sort of like longer films. They're a little drier. They're a little bit quieter for the most part. A lot of times they're trying to, I don't know, the Driving Miss Daisies of the world come to mind. They're trying to like sort of be a little preachy to people. A lot of the 80s Best Picture nominees, Best Picture winners, I think are all kind of one note.
The smallest box of any year that I've covered on this show is 1942, because that is by far the one where it had the biggest overarching world event happening at the time that everything was being made. And so even the films that weren't technically about war still had war elements to them. But this, like, I could see more thematic through lines in 2005 than I could in this particular year, even taking Dad's point.
Yeah. Mine's more like decade wide. I think the 80s decade is like everything falls under the same sort of umbrella of conservatism, and that it was in the air.
Okay.
Like all the 80s best pictures as a decade are in a box, and they sort of live under one umbrella. And I don't think there's any other decade where it's like, oh, all 10 best picture movies just fit in this one lane for the most part. You know, throw Platoon out. I think Platoon's kind of an outlier, but even Rain Man's kind of in the same box, really, honestly.
I mean, is Amadeus?
Yeah, I mean, maybe you can throw that one out too, but a couple outliers.
I think you could probably do it more with the nominees than you could maybe do with all of the winners per se, but like I get where you're coming from, because like,
you know, we got
Rain
Chariots
Man
of
in
Fire
terms of Indira, Rain Man and terms of endearment and Ordinary People very much feel of like the same cloth.
Correct. And Chariots of Fire and Gandhi and Last Emperor, same. Like, it's just like there's a lot of sameness in the 80s that I don't think any other decade has been guilty of. And it's just, the more I go back to it, the more I'm like, oh yeah, the 80s is just its own little thing. The decade kind of did what they did. The Academy did what they did.
All right. So circling back to your question, I will ask our first trivia question of the night, and I've tried to piece these out, specifically tying into the category we will be introducing here in a second. So this is for supporting actress. Jessica Lange was nominated in both lead actress for Frances and won for supporting actress in Tootsie. This was the fourth time it had happened to this point, and all three previous times the person won the supporting award. Can you name any of the previous nominees' winners, or any one of the 8 people to accomplish this feat since 1982?
Well, I'm just going to give you full disclosure right now, Tom. I spent this weekend at multiple children's birthday parties, and my brain is not wired for trivia right now. So I'm going to plead the fifth.
Katharine Hepburn.
No.
Really? I thought she was nominated for Best Actress in...
Well, first off, you have to have it in 2 categories simultaneously.
Yeah. I thought she was nominated for Best Actress in 1942 and Best Supporting in 1942, and won Best Supporting.
Nope. You're thinking of Teresa Wright.
Oh, yes.
So we have covered one on this show. One I would have had no chance at, but another one, which I don't know when you're going to be covering 1944, but here's one of those weird Oscar idiosyncrasies. Barry Fitzgerald gets nominated for both Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor for the same movie in Going My Way. Yeah. The other one was from 1938, Faye Bainter, which is the one I would have never gotten, for Best Actress for White Banners, never heard of it, and Best Supporting Actors for Jezebel. Of the people since, Sigourney Weaver in 1988 for Gorillas in the Mist and Working Girl. She was the first not to actually win either one of the awards. Then you had Al Pacino in 92, where he wins Best Actor for Son of a Woman, but is also nominated for Glengarry Glen Ross. You have Holly Hunter for The Piano and The Firm, where she wins for The Piano. But in the same year, and this is the only time it happened twice in the same year, you also have Emma Thompson, The Remains of the Day and In the Name of the Father. 2002 for Julianne Moore. Far From Heaven for Best Actress and The Hours for Best Supporting Actress. Jamie Foxx, in 2004, he was nominated for Ray, for which he won, obviously, and Collateral for Best Supporting Actor. Cate Blanchett in 2007, so Andrew will know this one for his prep coming up. Elizabeth, The Golden Age for Best Actress, and I'm Not There for Best Supporting Actress. But the most recent one, and there was a 12-year gap between Cate Blanchett and 2019. Since this is more recent Oscars trivia, do either of you remember? I thought she should have at least won Best Supporting Actress this year, but she did not.
2019 is literally the next year I'm prepping for, so I will be getting close to that.
It isn't Glenn Close,
Was
is it?
Saoirse Ronan up for a couple?
No, you're both wrong. ScarJo, Marriage Story for Best Actress,
JoJo?
and Jojo Rabbit for Best Supporting Actors.
Yeah, I enjoy those performances. I can confirm that.
Yeah. All right. So that is your
Okay.
first of 7 trivia questions to be piecemealed out throughout the evening.
As my brain turns even more into mush over the next couple hours. Children's birthday parties. All right.
Too much small talk for Andrew.
Yes. I don't even want to talk about what happened today. All right. With that said, let's get into the categories. Of course, if Dana, Tom, and I all agree with what actually won, we'll skip the online voting process. However, if we all have disagreements, we'll turn it over to you. You'll get to vote. So let's get to Best Supporting Actress for 1982. So the actual nominees that year were Kim Stanley for Frances, Terry Garr for Tootsie, Leslie Ann Warren for Victoria, Glenn Close for The World According to Garp, and the Oscar went to Jessica Lange for her performance in Tootsie. Dana, we are going to start with you on this one. So why don't you give us your revised nominees and winner?
All right. I will agree with Kim Stanley. I liked Terry Garr's performance in Tootsie as well. Glenn Close deserved it for at least making a memorable character out of a piece of garbage. I thought by far Jessica Lange was just probably the best part of Tootsie. And so she would have been my winner. But instead of Leslie Ann Warren, who I thought, I mean, it's a weak category. I tried to look around who would even be worthy. So I went out of my way a little bit and went kind of off the beaten path a bit. And I've replaced Leslie Ann Warren with Carol Burnett from Annie.
See, and I thought I'd be the only one.
And did you say you're going to stick with the Academy? You've got Jessica Lange winning it?
I do.
Yeah.
I would give honorable mention. I thought about Ellen Barkin, but I just don't see her role being significant enough in Diner to merit the nomination over any of the others that I've nominated.
And did you say Jessica Lange is your favorite component of Tootsie, at least as far as the acting portion?
Yes. As now that I've watched it again, I mean, probably Dustin Hoffman was when I first saw it. Let me just say this. Seeing these films when I was 18, 19 years old is much different than watching them now as a 61-year-old man with a lot of life experience.
Okay.
And so it's just, I look at them differently now than I probably did then.
All right. Well, we will go to me next, and we're going to round out this category with Tom. I will fully agree with Dana that I have had it really good over the summer with some talented acting categories for the women, and I am back in the doldrums right now because there was just horrible depth for this category and even worse in lead actress. It was just a desolate wasteland for the women this year. You agree, Tom?
I do. I think, and I guess I should take everybody through this again. When I do my own nominations and everybody talks about award or nomination fraud, I guess is the term, in whether it's supporting or lead, and we have this conversation literally every month on this show. I have only 9 nominated actresses in Best Actress, and that's the ones that qualify based on my metrics. You have to have been in more than 50% of the film, and there has to be at least one scene from your perspective. In that, because of that, Glenn Close for me is actually in lead, not supporting. But otherwise, I would perfectly be okay with that nomination here. But then you're talking about 9 total lead performances. And so to round out that few, you're going to get some possibly, like, the end of that list. I literally put down the little girl who plays Annie is number 9 on that list.
I got to 14 on my Best Actress power ranking list, but it's not much deeper than yours.
And just for context, Best supporting actor, which I try and put down anybody who's like at all relevant or that I think has a decent shot. I have 30 actors. I only have 19 actresses in this category.
So same. I have 20 supporting actresses that I was looking at in my group, and I have 36 supporting actors. It's night and day different. It's,
They didn't write decent parts for women, and the few that were decent parts went to good actresses, and they excelled above the rest. And so those will end up being our winners here. But as you said, the depth is not there because they just did not have depth parts for women, period.
Yep, I agree. Completely agree. I have a couple of honorable mentions, but they're like, I'm more or less throwing some bones out there. I've got Zelda Rubinstein as Tangina Barons in Poltergeist. It's a very small part in the grand scheme of things, so it's not going to get in it. And then this is kind of a laughable honorable mention, but I've got Phoebe Cates as Linda in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. It's a memorable performance, maybe for a certain demographic, maybe for reasons not mine, but we all know what we're talking about. Phoebe Cates was very memorable in the 80s.
Personally, I would have Jennifer Jason Leigh as an honorable mention over Phoebe Cates, but I can see it.
Yeah, Jennifer Jason Leigh is great. She's not far off. But here are the 5 women I've got in my revised field. So I'm going to do this alphabetically by film, as I always do. First up, I've got Sean Young, who plays Rachel in Blade Runner. Second, I've got Claudia Cardinale, who plays Molly in Fitzcarraldo. Don't know if either of you gentlemen got to Fitzcarraldo. I assumed not, Tom. I've got Jessica Lange as Julie Nichols and Terry Garr as Sandy Lester, both in Tootsie. I think they both deserved their place there. And then finally, I've got Charlotte Rampling as Laura Fisher in The Verdict. There really wasn't a standout for me. I was wrestling with this all the way up until today, quite honestly, because I could make a semi-compelling case for any of the 5 women, though none of them really spoke to me. But I'm going to give the win to Sean Young in Blade Runner because I think that Rachel character is incredibly integral to the story and Deckard's journey through the film. I think she walks the line really nicely between human and android, and there's a lot of nonverbal acting happening with her eyes, her posture, her body language. I just find that character really fascinating. It's sort of like playing on old noir tropes, which Blade Runner sort of delves into all the time. So I'm just going to give Sean Young the win, really just because I love Blade Runner and I love that character. And I think that everything that happens with Deckard is completely down to what Rachel's story is really. So Sean Young's going to get my win for Blade Runner. Tom, what about you?
So this is exactly why I wanted to go last on this category. There was a 1A, 1B type of situation for me in this category, and I knew one of them would be backstopped already, and I'll get to that here in a second. But I wanted to potentially show some love unless one of you basically took that decision away from me. I know I will not win the fan vote on this one, and I don't care. This is one where I'm doing it because I think this needs to be at least part of the nomination process and needs to be recognized. So, as I usually do, I will start with my honorable mention. We've mentioned several that I really don't need to talk about anymore, but my number 6 was Talia Shire. That's the level of depth for this year. Talia Shire is good in Rocky 3, but she didn't deserve an Oscar nomination for that. But of my 5, I have Ellen Barkin for Diner. I have Carol Burnett at 4 for Annie. I have Charlotte Rampling at 3 for The Verdict. I also think, and this will come up again here because I think this might be one of the single best performance years by an actress in Jessica Lange, but I'm going to have her just losing as my 1B to Kim Stanley for Frances. I think she is outstanding in that movie. One of the cruelest mothers who never thinks of herself as a villain throughout the course of the film. I went through such a height of emotions back and forth through the course of that movie, watching these two basically battle and one having absolute power over the other, that it broke me at times. Watching what this mother did, thinking she was actually caring about her daughter, but doing the worst possible things to her. and it just, ugh. So Kim Stanley will get my win for Frances, and she will probably draw less than 20% of the vote.
This is going to be like 2005 all over again, Tom, where you went with your heart.
Don't care.
Yeah, that's fine. I've been, hey, Jacques Tati and Playtime. We were just talking about that, privately the other day. I took a flyer on it. I knew I wasn't going to get it, but I had to throw it out there.
I have my near perfect record on 2014. Yeah. I think I'm okay.
Yeah, you're good. I really quickly on Jessica Lange. She was in my 5, but for whatever reason on this most recent rewatch, I was more inclined to give Terry Garr my win if I was going to give it to one of the 2 women in Tootsie. I don't know why, but I just thought I had Terry Garr just slightly ranked ahead of Jessica Lange for whatever reason. I don't know. Something about this just most recent watch, Garr just pulled me in a different direction, and I wasn't necessarily expecting it.
That's interesting because I went in the exact opposite direction where I felt Lange had a lot more layering. Frankly, her character's just written better. And Garr did what she could with that role, but it to me felt like kind of a throwaway in some ways that she's in there, and she did the best that she could with it. I didn't think it was poor casting. I just didn't think that role did that much other than being kind of hysterical.
Yeah. And we both had Rampling. I'm a huge Charlotte Rampling fan, but I felt like it would almost be a disservice to give Rampling my win because of the way she's treated in that movie at times. And it just, like, I didn't feel like the movie deserved the respect of getting, like, Rampling's deserves her flowers for other spots. Like, I thought she did the most with what she had an opportunity to do with, but the movie doesn't treat her very well. And it doesn't feel like it's, like, it feels malicious. Like, it feels kind of like really, I don't know. It was not well placed. I did not receive Rampling's portrayal and what she went through very well.
It's one of the most legally dubious ethical movies ever.
Oh, no, it's not. And when we get to that film, I will tell you that the ending and how it played out is completely wrong. And it would never have happened and all that. But
so we'll save it.
I'm ready. I know that
the legal analysis is already churning here.
Yes, there's nobody I'd rather hear the opinions of the verdict from than the 2 of you, especially Dana with all of his experience.
Oh, yeah, you don't want to hear from me on that. But it's just wasted time.
But we got 3 options for this rather weak category. But you can throw your vote towards Dana and the Academy, who both have Jessica Lange and Tootsie. You can throw your vote towards me. I've got Sean Young and Blade Runner, and then Tom went out on a limb a little bit. He's got Kim Stanley in the movie Frances. Check out Frances if you haven't seen it. It was one of the underrated movies of that year, I would say. I had a good time. Yeah,
it'll be coming up again.
I figured. Okay, moving over to Best Supporting Actor now. Again, a much deeper category. Tom, you got some trivia for us?
Question number 2. Louis Gossett Jr. was the first black man to win Supporting Actor, but who was the second?
Second to win specifically Supporting Actor?
Correct.
Surely we're not going all the way to like Mahershala, are we? There's got to be somebody sandwiched in between there.
We don't even leave the decade.
Oh, Morgan.
No.
Does he not win for Driving Miss Daisy?
I don't believe so, no. Because it's the
same
year
Oscar was for Glory.
He didn't win the Oscar for Glory.
Oh.
I don't even think he was nominated for Glory. You have the right movie, but you have the wrong actor.
Is it Denzel?
Denzel in 1989 for Glory.
Okay.
I think Denzel was the only Glory nomination.
I think Matthew Broderick might have been nominated, but obviously he's not a black man.
Yeah. I don't even know.
He might have been one of the whitest people of the 80s, but
yeah. And he didn't play one in a movie, unlike
Downey.
But he is the Sausage King of Chicago. Anyway.
All right, well, here are the gentlemen in 82 nominated for this category. So you have Charles Durning for the best little whorehouse in Texas. You got John Lithgow for The World According to Garp. James Mason for The Verdict. Robert Preston for Victor Victoria. And the win that year, as Tom just mentioned, went to Louis Gossett Jr. for An Officer and a Gentleman. Tom, I'm going to have you lead us off this time with the category.
All right, so the people that just missed for me. Number 10, Dom DeLuise for the best little whorehouse in Texas. A just stupid role. Like, it's so goofy, but he plays it like he steers right into it wholeheartedly. Like, he is going for it at every turn in that movie. 9, I have Carl Weathers from Rocky 3. No real analysis needed there. Everybody knows. 8, I have Jack Warden, one of the great character actors of all time, from The Verdict. 7, I have Rutger Hauer for Blade Runner. 6, I have Charles Durning. So this is my cut line. So number 5, one of the more iconic sports movie characters of all time, I have Mr. T for Rocky 3. That's a little bit of my token nomination here, but I agreed with the Academy on 2 here. I have John Lithgow at 4 for The World According to Garp. John Lithgow is just one of the great actors that nobody talks nearly enough about. And it is going to be an absolute travesty whenever we lose him because he is so fucking good in anything he does. When you talk about somebody, I could watch them read the phone book. That is one of the people that I would watch read the fucking phone book. 3, Robert Preston. Victor Victoria. I just like Robert Preston, particularly in musicals. And again, this is another one where somebody just like gives themselves over to a part. He really goes for it in this movie. 2, this is going to be my off the wall one, but I think it's totally deserved. I have Ricardo Montalban for The Wrath of Khan. I know it is in some circles campy, but he's so malicious and conniving and cunning, and it's a great villain. He's the reason the movie works. So I recognize him.
I thought it was Shatner's acting.
Okay. Anyway, Captain's Log. But for me, there was one winner. He was far and away the best supporting actor of the year. I know I'm not going to win this one either, but when I originally saw this one, he was the one role that stood out for me in this movie. Even as Titanic, a performance as he was next to through the entire movie, I have Kevin Kline for Sophie's Choice. He is unfucking believable in that movie. Oh my God. I mean, this is just at the front end of dealing with mental health and mental illness in movies. And he really nails it in a way that I don't think anybody really touched as well for quite a while. Because we just didn't have the right information to really portray that on screen. He is vacillating between just wild extremes of his character's attitude and how he feels about these people and how he interacts, to the point where you're always off base in that movie with what version of him is going to show up. And he gives you almost, as an audience member, a certain level of PTSD by his performance. I am astounded by how good he is in that movie. I know everybody's going to talk about, and frankly should, Meryl Streep in that movie, but he is equal to the task of being her paramour in that film.
All right, Kevin Kline. Not the first time Kevin Kline will have a vote. He was nominated by Adam St. John in 2001 for Life as a House, which he did terrible in, but that movie's not nearly as known as Sophie's Choice, so we'll see if he does better this time. We'll go to me next. We'll round it off with Dana for this category. I've got 2 honorable mentions. One of them is one of Tom's nominees, and that is absolutely Ricardo Montalban as Khan in Wrath of Khan. He's perfect for the movie. Like, say what you will, like you said, Tom. He is phenomenal. Benedict Cumberbatch did everything he could to try to do a different version of Khan, but it's just move out of the way. That's Montalban's mantle forever. And then my other honorable mention was Richard Crenna, who plays Colonel Samuel Troutman in First Blood. He obviously, most of his work comes on the back end of that movie, but at that final scene there at the end where he and John Rambo are sort of like holed up in that building. He's doing a lot of work there next to Stallone, and probably, quite frankly, to Dana's point earlier, he's probably elevating a lot of that stuff that Stallone's putting on film. But I think Richard Crenna really does a lot in that movie, even non-verbally earlier on in the film. So he was just on the outside. But my 5 guys in this category, first and foremost, I've got Rutger Hauer as Roy Batty in Blade Runner. He's phenomenal. Second, I'm going to have to go with at least one person from Diner. Diner's got this huge ensemble. It was a little bit challenging for me to kind of extract one gentleman from the movie, but I'm going to go with Mickey Rourke, who plays Boogie. There's something about 1980s Mickey Rourke that is so captivating to me. He was a phenomenon. Like, you disagreeing with me, Tom?
No, I'm specifically going to ask you the question that I had. So there's like 6 primary male characters and one supporting female character. I had Ellen Barkin in my nominations for supporting actors. Out of those 6, the only one that I had in supporting actor was Paul Reiser.
Okay.
So where do you divide lead versus supporting in that? Because if there's any one of them that I would say elevates beyond to probably lead status, because we probably follow his story most closely, it's Mickey Rourke.
For whatever reason, the only actor that I put in Diner in the lead category is Steve Guttenberg.
Really?
I don't know why. I was wrestling with Diner a lot and like where to move them, and so I just thought I'm going to put Guttenberg in lead and throw everyone else in support, and just let the chips fall where they may.
I don't think there's any wrong answers particularly to that, because, like I said, I think I have 5 out of the 6 in lead, but
how could you not have Tim Daly and Daniel Stern as supporting?
As supporting?
Yeah.
Because they're in over 50% of the film, and because we have scenes from their perspective. That's why I said it's 5 different lead performances. It's a friend group, and they all get their own individual moments.
This was the first movie, and I may have even said it in the little Discord group that we have amongst some podcasters as I was watching it. This was the first time I've ever watched a movie where I really felt compelled to just throw all of them in support, because I don't feel like it's hard to, and to Tom's point, you could either throw them all in one or all in the other, but it was hard for me to like isolate one, but I had to make a cut and a decision somewhere. So that's how I ended up where I did, and I threw Guttenberg in and then everyone else on the side.
I don't think it's a wrong answer. I was just curious because for any of them, I probably have Rourke as the most leady of any of the leads, but
I mean, he's certainly the most charismatic, magnetic person in the film.
It's the best single performance I've ever seen of him. Now, I haven't seen The Wrestler, so I don't have that to compare it against, but it's the best single acting performance I've ever seen, where he's got a lot more subtlety. There's a lot less bombastic nature to his stuff, and I think life had its definite effect on him. So I don't mind the nomination here. I was just curious where your dividing line was, because that is a very difficult movie to piece out who we're actually following. It's more like we're following this group, and that's why I would kind of have this more in an ensemble type of thing.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, they all have different moments where they have scenes where they're the lead of a scene. I can remember distinctly a couple where it's very much Rourke's point of view, but that's why I just threw him in support, just for, again, let the chips fall where they may. But it's undeniable what he's doing in that movie is very palpable. It's strong. So he's my second nomination. Third one is going to go to Sean Penn as Jeff Spicoli in Fast Times. In terms of like a comedic performance, he commits. He goes, like, he was method acting his ass off there, and I commend him for it. He is phenomenal as Spicoli. I don't care what Sean Penn's done the rest of his career. I still think of him as Spicoli, as whatever, whether he's playing Milk or Mystic River or anything. He is Spicoli to me, and he always will be. I have Brian Dennehy in my 5. Tom, I think he is sensational in First Blood. Just a vastly underrated actor, to your point. I can't remember which one of the two.
It was
I think
Dana.
Dana, yeah. I think.
Yeah, he's the
I think-
bigger fan because Dana's a huge Silverado fan.
Okay, yeah. And my dad was a Silverado fan as well, and so I remember watching a lot of Dennehy. So Dennehy absolutely in the 5, and then my 5th and final supporting actor is Kevin Kline as Nathan Landau in Sophie's Choice, a movie that I hadn't seen in a long time for obvious reasons. It's not the most pleasurable movie to go back to. I forgot Kevin Kline was in the movie, quite frankly, and when I saw it, to your point, Tom, you can't deny the power of Meryl Streep in that movie. However, Kevin Kline is sublime in the film. He had to be in my 5. He was very high up in my 5. But at the end of the day,
it's Rutger Hauer.
Toot for two, Blade Runner. It's Rutger Hauer. He's one of the iconic sci-fi villains of all time, if you can really call him a villain, quite frankly, because it's easy to see his point of view. He's a sympathetic character. Once sort of the rug gets pulled out from under him and he sort of discovers that the end is nigh, I think it's a really fascinating way for his character to sort of spiral out. And then obviously, quite frankly, the final scene in the rain, which is an improvised monologue, is just a sort of a one-of-one moment. It's one of the great monologues in film history, so it's hard for me to deny that one moment. But there's a lot leading up to that does it for me.
I think you're more likely to view him as a villain or not based on your understanding of whether Deckard is a replicant or not.
Correct. Yes. And I will leave it to the audience if they prefer to think of Deckard as a replicant or not. I will not be the judge and jury on that one. But yeah, I think Rutger Hauer is phenomenal, and we need to make sure that this nomination doesn't get lost like Tears in the Rain. Dana, you get to round us out with the category.
All right. Honorable mentions. I also had Mickey Rourke. By far, this was the best performance I have ever seen Mickey Rourke give. I think, but for all of the accidents and all the rest of the problems he's had, what his career could have been. I also have an honorable mention for Alec Harris. He's affable. He's pleasant. He does everything well in Victor Victoria that's asked of him. I really enjoyed him as an actor in that film and such. Another honorable mention that I will give is I will give that also to Charles Durning. But he's not one of my 5. Charles Durning. I love Charles Durning as an actor. I don't understand why he got nominated for this film.
Which of the 2 Charles Durning roles, though? That's the question.
Well, it was from Little House.
Yeah, well, the Best Little Whorehouse he got nominated for, but he was also in Tootsie, and you could have nominated him for that too. So that's why
I know.
Okay.
I know. And that's where I'm going with it. I mean, I think he would be better off in Tootsie getting nominated, but he does not make my top 5. My top 5 are as follows. 5th is Robert Preston. And my number 4 is Sam Shepard.
Okay.
I think Sam Shepard is another underappreciated actor from his days. I have Rutger Hauer as
Dad, so backing up for a second, what movies do you have these attached to? Because none of us have said Sam Shepard to this point, so what movie is he nominated for here?
Francis, excuse me.
Thank you.
And then I have John Lithgow for Carp. And then I have Kevin Kline for Sophie's Choice. And I do have Louis Gossett Jr. for Officer and a Gentleman. I remember watching Officer and a Gentleman in the theaters and was mesmerized by Louis Gossett Jr. at that time. And watching the film again, I was equally mesmerized by him. I think it was a performance that at that time was incredibly powerful and memorable. And I think the Academy actually got that right.
Now, Dana, I'm scribbling quickly. I may have noted 6 nominees. Do I have that correct? You would not be the first to give me 6 nominees, so it's already been a precedent.
I did,
I've
You got Robert Preston, John Lithgow, Shepard, Kevin Kline, and then Louis Gossett.
and Rutger Hauer.
Okay,
no, he never mentioned Rutger.
I did mention him, but I must have screwed up my count.
Do you want to leave all 6 in there, or you want to take one out?
No, I'll leave all 6
okay.
in. I'll be a
little chaos.
maverick. I do like Rutger Hauer. I think I had him. I must have written. Don't ask me what I did. Anyway,
this is why I do the math on our show.
Hey, Dana's been feeling ill for a little while. We can cut him some slack, right?
Yeah, I got up early this morning to finish my prep so that I was ready to go and was fresh while I was doing it. So, but apparently I must not have been quite awake.
Now, so Tom, you and I, neither of us has Louis Gossett in our 5.
Yeah.
I personally had him ranked 15th out of my 36. I'm not like disparaging the performance, but it was just kind of in the middle for me. Where did you have him?
I had him at 25 out of 30.
Wow, okay.
I thought it was a forgettable role. And frankly, I know that we're not supposed to do this, but he was taught to do this role by R. Lee Ermey. And then R. Lee Ermey does it better in 87 for Full Metal Jacket. So it's just... Louis Gossett is a fine actor, I'm sure. But that movie is so... It's like kind of a weird fart in the wind that I'm sure it was popular back when people went to the movie theater a lot more often, but it's so...
Taylor Hackford was never known for making really high-quality films.
It's so melodramatic. It's after-school special kind of stuff for me. Richard Gere definitely does not know what kind of actor or character he's playing in the movie most of the time. The best actress out of the whole thing for me is somebody who was nominated for her performance, and that's Deborah Winger. Like, she's the only one in the movie who seems to know exactly who she is and who her character is. But Louis Gossett Jr., for me, lost it about the point where he's doing the kung fu fight with Richard Gere. It's just like, this is so schlocky. This is so 80s.
Okay, but you have to understand, this was not a... Drill sergeants like this did not necessarily appear in films that often. There were a few. Okay. So in 1982, when this was done, this was a big deal performance.
Great. I don't have context for 1982.
Well, good for you. So,
like, what are you expecting here?
I'm just telling you what it was.
Okay.
So
it still doesn't make the performance any better or less better or whatever for me. I don't care what had happened before or after. I can only judge it in how I viewed the performance. And it was fine.
Okay.
It was not deserving of a nomination or even an honorable mention as far as I was concerned. And definitely not the win for me. If you thought differently, fine. Like I said, this is the kinder, gentler Tom.
Well, we will turn it over to the audience to determine the true winner here. Once again, Dana is with the Academy. Louis Gossett Jr., an officer and a gentleman. You can go with the vote there. You can side with me. I've got Rutger Hauer in Blade Runner. You'll side with me. We know it's going to happen. Or you can go with Tom. He's got Kevin Kline in Sophie's Choice. An incredibly underrated performance, which I will agree with. Okay, Best Actress. Before we get to Best Actress, Tom, trivia, let's do it.
All right. Number 3 here on the night. Meryl Streep holds the record for most Oscar nominations ever. How many times has Meryl Streep won an Oscar and been nominated? Bonus if you can get more than half of the films she's been nominated for.
So how many wins and how many nominations?
Correct. How many total nominations and how many wins does she have?
Devil Wears Prada.
That was a nominated film.
Yeah, she didn't win. I think she's got 3 wins and
Iron Lady.
11 nominations.
Okay. So you got the right amount of wins.
Okay.
You did not get the right amount of nominations.
I'm way high.
No, you're way low.
Oh, shit.
What did you guess?
11.
Again,
Wow.
she holds the record for most nominations by a single
20
actor or actress.
22.
Now you're a little high. It's 17.
That's
Wow.
a friggin' ton.
Well, there were periods where she didn't go more than like 3 years at a time without being nominated.
Yeah, and we're going all the way back to, 78 probably?
So 1979, 1980, 1982, 83, 84, 86, 88, 89, 91, 96. So that's like the biggest drought there. Then 99, 2000, 03, 07, 09, 2010, 2011, 2012, not 2011, 2014, 2015, 2017, 2018. And she has not been nominated since, which is the longest drought since 1979 that she has not been nominated for anything. She's been nominated for The Deer Hunter, Kramer versus Kramer, The French Lieutenant's Woman, Sophie's Choice, Silkwood, Out of Africa, Ironweed, A Cry in the Dark, Postcards from the Edge, The Bridges of Madison County, One True Thing, Music of the Heart, Adaptation, The Devil Wears Prada, Doubt, Julie and Julia, The Iron Lady, August, Osage County, Into the Woods, Florence Foster Jenkins, and The Post was her last nomination.
Okay.
She has won for Kramer versus Kramer for Best Supporting Actress, Sophie's Choice for this year, and The Iron Lady, both in Best Actress.
Yes, and I know we have covered many of those years already on this show, and I will definitely say some of those nominations were gift wrapped for her. I'm looking at you, Into the Woods, as a prime example of
Florence Foster Jenkins.
Yes.
I mean, she's good in the movie, but
correct. We could scale it back to like 13 nominations, and I'd be okay with it.
like I have no problem with her holding the record for most nominations by an actress. And frankly, probably during the 80s and 90s, that was deserved, although there's that period from 91 to 96 that she has that kind of like semi-drought. But when you start getting into the like every single year during the 2000s, and it was, okay, fine. We nominate people for playing Thatcher like we nominate people for playing Churchill. We somehow seemingly, or excuse me, the Queen. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I will be addressing the Churchill of it all here in a few months as well when I get to 2017 and Gary Oldman. That's a whole other thing.
I said it at the time. It was a terrible performance and a terrible film. I'll stand on that one.
Yeah. I'm not too far off. All right, well, here are the nominees that we had for Best Actress in 1982. So you had Deborah Winger for An Officer and a Gentleman. You had Jessica Lange for Frances. Sissy Spacek for Missing. Julie Andrews for Victor Victoria. And claiming the gold statue was, of course, the iconic Meryl Streep for Sophie's Choice. This was, as Tom mentioned, the second of her 3 Oscar wins. And at this point, the show has already stripped one of those wins. We took away 2011's The Iron Lady win, with Kirsten Dunst in Melancholia taking the online vote there. However, just a few months ago, we gave her back a revised win where she won for The Devil Wears Prada in 2006. So we've sort of balanced the scales there a little bit. All right, I'm going to go first on this one, and then I'll go over to you two guys. So, again, the depth was atrocious. I've got 14 names, so I'll give you a couple honorable mentions, but they're just there. I've got Mary Woronov, who plays Mary Bland in Eating Raoul. That movie is like a heightened, over-the-top kind of mess, but she plays it really well. She fits the tone of that movie, so I'll at least mention her there. And then I'm not a huge fan of Victor Victoria, but I do think Julie Andrews is good in the role. It's just not my cup of tea, but I know people who really enjoy that movie, so I'll at least mention her there. Okay, so my 5 women in my revised category. First up, I have Barbara Hershey, who plays Carla Moran in The Entity. I can't imagine either of you, certainly Tom, I can't imagine you went anywhere near The Entity, but she gets put through some stuff in that movie, and I have to applaud what Barbara Hershey put her body through in the film. She's going to get nominated there. She earned it. Next up, I've got Jessica Lange, who plays Frances Farmer in Frances. She's dynamite. Absolutely dynamite. If I was only going to give her one nomination, either the Tootsie one in supporting or this one, this would be the one I would choose if I had to pick one or the other, just personally. Third nominee is going to go to Sissy Spacek playing Beth Horman in Missing. A phenomenal film. We haven't talked about it much, but maybe we'll talk about it a little bit more. This is the third time I've nominated Sissy Spacek on the show. It's a matter of time I'm going to give her a win. I just haven't quite got there yet. Fourth nominee, Meryl Streep as Sophie, of course, in Sophie's Choice. This is also the third time I've nominated Meryl Streep on the show. Once in the 90s, once in the 2000s, and now in the 80s. And then my fifth and final nomination, and I'm going to butcher this poor woman's name. As much as our friend Heather, the Question Queen, tried to help me on my German, I'm going to nominate Uzel Zech for Veronica Voss, a movie that I'm sure neither of you gentlemen saw. It was one of two Rainer Werner Fassbinder films in 1982, and she plays the titular Veronica Voss. She's very, very good. But what's up, Tom? You want to correct my German?
No, although I would say that you just simply don't have enough phlegm in your throat for those pronunciations. But if I were still having a gong,
that would, it would be deserved there. I listened to an audio note of the pronunciation probably 100 times, and I knew I was never going to get it right. But the obvious answer here, I would be stunned, quite honestly, if either of you went in a different direction. It's Meryl Streep. It's one of the all-time great lead actress performances. It's remembered as such, but going back and watching it, again, it's not an easy movie. I don't find myself compelled to want to go back and watch it very often, but I think this stands at the very top of the Meryl Streep list, right alongside her Miranda Priestley Devil Wears Prada role. Like when you talk about the two movies that I think of Meryl Streep, those would be the two. It's dynamite. It's electric. She deserves all the praise and all the laudits that go her way. Meryl Streep gets my win. Slam dunk. It was never in question. It just is what it is. All right, Tom, let's go over to you now.
Okay, so this is not one where I have a lot of honorable mentions. We've already mentioned two that were other nominees for me here. Deborah Winger. I mean, she's the best part of An Officer and a Gentleman for me. And Eileen Quinn is just like rounding out the nominations more or less for Annie, but I mean, she was a lead actress technically for this year. I did enjoy Dolly Parton for The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, but she's at my number 7. And the hardest cut I think I had for definitely this category, but for several, is I have Sissy Spacek just out. I mean, she's very good, but I have 5 women ahead of her that I just think are doing a little bit more lifting in their particular film. There's a point at which she kind of cedes ground to Jack Lemmon to kind of carry Missing. And so she kind of feels a little bit more supporting, even though she qualifies as lead actress in my qualification standards, if you will. So number 5, I have JoBeth Williams for Poltergeist. I think she's great in that movie. I mean, I was expecting a little bit more horror and gore and scares and whatnot. And it was, if I can make it through the big wuss that I am, pretty much unscathed, then it's a fine horror film. And I think she's probably the best single acting performance out of any of them in the movie, just as the caring mother who kind of wants to bring her children through it. I didn't think that she was like overacty at all, really. So that's part of the reason I end up putting her here. For Dame Julie Andrews, I mean, come on. Really? Do I really need to explain all that much? I mean, Victor Victoria is fine. It's not like a great movie or musical, but she's just fucking fantastic because she's Julie Andrews. 3, I have Glenn Close for The World According to Garp. Again, the acting performances are great in this movie, but don't watch it. It makes no fucking sense. And then I have what to me were 1A and 1B. And I think I am a little bit jaded because one of these movies I had seen before prep, and so this was my second watch. and the other one I had never seen before. And so my number 2 here is Meryl Streep for Sophie's Choice, and I'm going to go with Jessica Lange for Frances, because I think Frances just hit me a little differently, whereas Streep, I'd seen the performance before, and while she's extraordinarily good in this, there's just a depth and depravity that Lange goes to that I don't have as much of a... It didn't hit me as hard for Streep this time as it probably did the first time that I saw it, probably a decade ago, I think. Again, neither of these films will I be revisiting, but I really have no reason to see why there's a clear separation between these two. I think they're both probably some of the best lead performances of the 1980s for an actress, just bar none. So as far as that goes, I won't make it a straight win. I think I'm going to lose hand over fist in this one. I think most people are going to go Streep, especially because Streep has the name recognition compared to Jessica Lange at this point. But fuck it, I'm going to go with I want to have some level of competition, and apparently I made a very large wager against myself before starting this episode.
I do think, though, that one of the, I've mentioned it before, but I always have people that will reach out to me after an episode drops, and they'll be like, oh, wow, I had never seen or heard of X, Y, and Z, and I've added all these movies to my Letterboxd watch list. I think that we've already spoken to the idea that Frances should be one of those movies that's just kind of undervalued from 1982. And so I would anticipate you nominating Jessica Lange here is going to probably compel some people to add it and check it out, which is great.
I really toyed with, and I thought one of the unique markers, if one of you have nominated Kim Stanley, I was definitely prepared to go double win for Jessica Lange here, because frankly, I think she deserves it. I think like I said, 1A, 1B in both of the female categories, and talk what you want about the depth. The top of the board for me on both of those categories is very high. It's just that 3, 4, 5 got really tedious, and you're trying to round out the category as best as you can. But at the top, I have no qualm with her winning either of those. Either the one she actually did win, or actually competing with Streep, which I don't think she'll probably do, but I have maybe a shot to get 30% in this category.
That's very optimistic of you to think that.
Yeah, I know.
All right, Dana, let's see what you got.
All right. The bottom of this category is bottom.
Well, there isn't very far of a bottom.
Yeah, I know.
How many total did you have on your short list?
It's a very shallow pond.
How many did you have total on your short list?
I had 6.
Okay, so there's the one cut.
Yeah, one cut. And I'm cutting Deborah Winger out of the academies. And I'm adding Dolly Parton, because I love Dolly Parton in this, and she's Dolly Parton. And then I'm going to go with Julie Andrews, only because of this. You said, Tom, it's Julie Andrews. This isn't even close to her best part. This is even close to one of her best 10 other parts. I can name a bunch of other things she's better at.
Okay, so she won a Primetime Emmy last night from when we were recording this. And she is one leg short of an EGOT. She never won a Tony.
Oh, that's right.
She's been nominated 3 times, but she never won. And now she can't sing, so how the hell is she supposed to get it? But they should almost just have a makeup honoree Tony for her. That's absurd.
Lifetime Achievement Award. Tony Lifetime Achievement Award. She deserves it.
Well, no shit.
So, then I will go Sissy Spacek. Again, another very underrated actress in so many different areas. Then I went back and forth. I really loved Frances. I loved it when I saw it in 1982. I love it when I saw it again. I watched it with my wife while we were on vacation. She could not, she just was mesmerized by the movie and the performance of Jessica Lange throughout. But we also watched Sophie's Choice. And it's so difficult when you consider how well Meryl Streep played that part to be the tortured soul. It would have been so easy to overact that part, to act like you're a tortured soul and come across as overly melodramatic. And she played it with such beauty. I have no choice but ultimately to say she's my number one, and the Academy got it right.
I would also like to throw out really quickly that I know there are probably people out there listening who think that I hate the Academy and I hate the winners of the Oscars, which is just quite frankly not true, but I can understand that point of view. I would like to note that 4 out of the last 5 months, I have completely agreed with the Academy in lead actress. I think that I've just fallen into this nice little run of years where I'm like, wow, the Academy, they were getting the correct choice in lead actress.
Well, when the pool is so short,
That's true.
Shallow.
But it hasn't been on for some of the previous months, so
Yeah.
I would like to at least say they've done a pretty good job. But yeah, Tom, you'll put up a fight online. I'm sure you'll do your best campaigning, but I don't have a lot of hope for you.
it's a second round TKO.
All right, so you're gonna have two options when we get to the online poll. You can go with Tom. He's on his own on Little Island with Jessica Lange and Francis, though I do hope you go and check out Francis, at least before you vote. Check out the movie if you're not familiar with it, and give it a fair shake.
I'm pretty sure it's free on Tubi right now, so if you really want to, just understand it is an emotionally difficult movie to watch. So don't try and throw it on a Friday night as a feel good. It is not that movie.
Correct. Yes. But she's going to be competing against Dana, myself, and the Academy. 3 for 3 now. Dana has sided with the Academy. We all have Meryl Streep and Sophie's Choice going up against Tom and Jessica Lange. All right, we're going to go over to Best Actor now, but first, back to Tom for some actor trivia.
All right. Question number 4 of the evening. Dustin Hoffman was nominated for his lead role in Tootsie, but who is the only person to win an acting award for playing a member of the opposite sex?
Oh, God. I know who it is.
Well,
I gotta say, I think I know who it is, but I could be.
Yes, I'm drawing a blank.
This is probably my favorite
baby
question.
actress.
Any of these.
The actress who played in $1 Million Baby. It was
Hilary Swank is not the correct answer.
Oh, okay. Because I thought maybe she got it for. Okay.
I mean, are we counting? Are we Eddie Redmayne for The Danish Girl?
He didn't win for that.
He didn't win for The Danish Girl. He got nominated. Yes, he won for Theory.
Jack Lemmon.
Not a bad guess, but no.
Okay.
Specifically this category, or just any acting?
Just period.
Period.
There have been a lot of people that have been nominated for transgender roles or playing a role of the opposite gender, but none who have actually won outside of this one person.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Now, if you want a hint...
What decade are we looking at?
1980s.
Christ. The Year of Living Dangerously.
You are correct.
Which I watched because I got confused and I thought it was this year, like an idiot, and I watched it for prep even though I didn't have to. And I'm blanking on what her name is because all I see is the principal from Kindergarten Cop.
It's all right. It's Linda Hunt.
There we go.
1983 for The Year of Living Dangerously. You are correct.
I finished the movie and I put her in my power rankings and I went, I'm in the wrong year. So that happened, yeah.
Well,
okay. She's very, very good in The Year of Living Dangerously, for what it's worth.
Whenever you get to that year and your 6.5 hours spent on Fanny and Alexander.
Oh man. All right, let's get to lead actor now. So the Academy in 82 nominated Jack Lemmon for Missing, Peter O'Toole for My Favorite Year, Dustin Hoffman for Tootsie, Paul Newman for The Verdict, And the winner was Ben Kingsley for his portrayal of Gandhi. Let's go ahead and start off with Dana this time and see who he has as his actor.
I'm going to give an honorable mention to Jack Lemmon for the simple reason that I do not think this is that strong of a performance by Jack Lemmon. He has given so many better performances throughout his career. This just did not come across as very memorable to me. Okay. I'm also not going to have on my list Dustin Hoffman after having watched this film again, because I don't think he offered or did much for the character at all other than to dress in drag. So my number 5 is Kurt Russell.
Okay.
I really like Kurt Russell in The Thing. I thought Kurt Russell is a very underrated actor. I thought he did a very great performance in this. And so he's my number 5. Number 4 is Peter O'Toole, because, again, he is a phenomenal part of my favorite year and is just great in that role. In large part, he was playing himself, but still. If you've ever seen an interview he was doing about that time, he was usually drunk and, oh, well, that's just Peter O'Toole. Number 3, I have Paul Newman. And again, I think Paul Newman was phenomenal in the film. And a little less believable as being a recovering alcoholic, but still did a nice job. Number 2, I have Jürgen Prochnow from Das Boot as my number 2. I thought his
we were told,
performance...
for what it's worth, we were told to say it's Das Boot because
Yes.
the double O. Yeah.
Yes, Das Boot. I thought his performance was awesome, and if you don't want to sit through all 3.5 hours of the film, just watch the last 40 minutes for his performance as the captain trying to come to terms with his actions, potentially killing his crew, and then getting them into port only to see the boat sunk and a lot of them, including himself, killed. And the look on his face as he sees the boat sink and then he dies is some amazing acting. Okay. And number 1, I have to go with Sir Ben Kingsley. Everything he's in, including Schindler's, is memorable. I just love Ben Kingsley. His performance was not what I did not care for in Gandhi when I first saw it. I just thought it was rather boring. And if I had to have my druthers, the fact that it won an Oscar for editing is a travesty, because it should have been edited. You could have probably cut 30 or 40 minutes out of it, and it would have been a lot better film. But it was not Sir Ben Kingsley. So therefore, I do think the Academy got that one right as well.
So you are 4 for 4 in agreeing with the Academy, and Andrew's going to start questioning here why he brought you on the show, because you have offered nothing original to add to the poll.
That's okay. That's okay.
I don't disagree with your picks.
Yeah.
It is a fine pick. I'm just saying.
We've got a couple of categories left, and I do have a curveball.
Okay. Well, by your statement on editing alone, I would assume Best Picture isn't probably not going there, but okay.
All right, Tom, we're going to go over to you now for actor.
Okay. You mentioned a couple of honorable mentions already. For me, I have Mickey Rourke at number 9 on my power list here. I think he's really good. I have a lot of the diner people. I think just it's a great overall cast performance, but there's nobody that truly separated themselves from me that could have been nominated thusly. I also had Kurt Russell at my number 7. I think he's fantastic in the film. Number 6 becomes a little bit more problematic based on my objections. I have Harrison Ford for Blade Runner, because the more voiceover Blade Runner has, the less he should be nominated, which is why he ends up being cut. But my number 5 here, I have one of the generational talents ever to grace the screen in Robin Williams. He is by far the best improvisational comedic actor we have ever had. And simultaneously, he is one of the best vulnerable and earnest actors we probably have had over that span of time. Like, you know it's Robin Williams on screen, but he has an ability to change himself at times in a way that most people don't because of all the comedic portions. But something, and I know I'm going to get shit for this, but like Mrs. Doubtfire, he has to be both roles. He has to be improvisationally comedic, but also extremely vulnerable to play the dad trying to be near his kids. That is a role that is only going to work for Robin Williams. So I have him for The World According to Garp. Again, great acting performances. Don't watch the film. 4, I also have Jürgen Prochnow, which I know I'm going to carry shit from Heather for, but whatever. Jürgen Prochnow is like my best version of that, but for Das Boot, there you go. You got your castigations in. But I also agree with pretty much everything that my dad has said, so I won't add too much there. 3, I have Jack Lemmon. I think he's great in this movie. I think by the time when he's gravitating between my son is missing and my government should help me, to realizing my government's not going to help me at all, and they're probably the reason my son is missing, is like a very subtle change where he's going through an existential crisis in real time during the movie, and I thought he was fantastic in this. 2, I have Ben Kingsley. I really don't have a whole lot to add unless we're just going to do a general Gandhi conversation, but I think we'll save some of that. But I think if Ben Kingsley is going to win a Best Actor Oscar, this is probably for this performance. And I think he's fantastic as Gandhi. I lose myself in watching him, even though I know in the back of my mind it's Ben Kingsley playing Gandhi. I still think he's a very convincing version of this character. And I get swept up in Gandhi, but we'll get to that here in a bit. But ultimately, the guy who probably should have won multiple Best Actors and kept missing out in weird years or whatever else, I'm going to take the cheap, easy points in the way I haven't in any other category so far tonight. I'm going to take Paul Newman for The Verdict as my winner.
I didn't see you go in that direction, Tom.
I'm not a huge Verdict fan. I don't think it's nearly as good as most other people seem to think it is, but it is a very good Paul Newman performance.
Okay. All right. My turn to jump into the ring. So, honorable mentions, really good field here, top to bottom. Liked a lot of the stuff out there. Harrison Ford is just missing out as Deckard. I guess it works out that we're only talking about the theatrical cut because you could tell, man, he did not want to be doing that voiceover. He was pissed off that he had to do the narration, not something he agreed with, and it showed. And then I've got Jack Lemmon on the outside looking in as well. He was my number 6. I'm kind of with Dana. There are a multitude of other Jack Lemmon performances that I pull before this. I think he's strong in it, but I just think Missing is more about the story and the way that Costa Gavras directs it than necessarily Spacek and Lemmon doing anything Titanic. To me, it feels almost more like documentarian in the way it's filmed. I don't know. Lemmon was close. He's just outside. The 5 guys that I have, though, in the category, maybe I'm going to take some shit for this one from Dana, but I've got Sylvester Stallone for Rambo in First Blood. Okay, now I will contend.
Sorry, that was an involuntary reaction, just based on the conversation that has happened so far tonight. Yes. That is not a judgment so much as anything.
Please judge away. I will contend that I think Dana does have a point that a lot of what his best stuff is before he's talking. Like there is, like the way that movie starts, there's this quiet, mysterious nature about John Rambo and the character, and you sort of slowly unpack like what he's been through as the cops that are messing with him do. But I actually think at the end, in that scene I talked about earlier with Richard Crenna, I think Stallone is doing a lot with his acting in that one scene, and at least enough for me to make it worth getting the nomination. And I just recently was randomly flipping channels and watched First Blood Part 2, which is fucking terrible. And to see Stallone's acting in that movie versus the First Blood versus Part 2, I was like, he's doing pretty good in First Blood. I'm going to give him some credit there.
Also,
that's
Second Blood was right there.
The two.
Second Blood was right there.
I know. Before I jump into the rest of my 4 nominees, I do want to quickly go back and say, Tom, I agree with you, and I'll take some shit for this one too. Robin Williams, to his point, Robin Williams is not in my 5, but to your point, he can make even a bad movie or a bad role elevate dramatically with his talent. And I'm thinking of specifically of Francis Ford Coppola's Jack, which is a really crazy, messy movie with Bill Cosby pretty prominent in it. But Robin Williams in Jack is very, very good. I will stand by that opinion.
Well, I can't say it's universally there. There is a point at which he like falls off and phones it in a little bit. Like by the time we get to 1 Hour Photo, where that's not a good performance, and Death to Smoochie.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, I got my Oscar. I've got plenty of money. I have a lot of good friends. Yeah, okay.
But no, I'm with you. I will go out on the limb that's most Robin Williams performances, regardless of movie quality, he's doing the work. But he's not in my 5. So second nominee is going to go to Klaus Kinski as Brian Sweeney in Fitzcarraldo. Again, you guys did not see that movie. Klaus Kinski and Werner Herzog have this historically famous, tumultuous director-actor relationship, and they hated each other in multiple films they made with each other. But it also made the performance really fiery because Werner Herzog would wind him up on set and then film him acting like a fucking lunatic, and it was amazing. And so Klaus Kinski in Fitzcarraldo is phenomenal in how wild and bombastic he is. Third nomination is going to go to Ben Kingsley as Mahatma Gandhi in Gandhi. You guys have said plenty wonderful things about Gandhi. Fourth nomination, Kurt Russell as R.J. McCready in The Thing. He's dynamite. I agree, Dana. People don't give Kurt Russell enough credit for the acting he does. Maybe a little bit more recently, like in Death Proof, which is way down the Tarantino list. But in terms of the acting, Kurt Russell's an awesome actor in that movie. He's really playing it up in that. And then my fifth nomination, I'm kind of surprised I'm the only one of us who's nominating him. I've got Dustin Hoffman in Tootsie in my 5. He's literally my number 5, but I do have him in the 5. I think he's very, very good in Tootsie. Third time I've nominated him. I nominated him for The Graduate with the two of you guys in 1967, and I nominated him in Marathon Man in 1976. But having only recently watched Ben Kingsley in 2001's Sexy Beast a couple of months ago, and then going back and watching Gandhi, it's not even the same guy in the role. He is transformative as Gandhi. It is one of the best biopic acting performances I think ever put to film. I'm comfortable going out on a limb. I also think that we probably live in a world now where people more associate Gandhi with Kingsley's portrayal than have ever seen any like representation of Gandhi in real. Like I think people think of Gandhi and they think of Kingsley's performance, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think you might have been right like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, but there are so many people that I think are turned off by the perception of what Gandhi is. So let's just have the Gandhi conversation here, okay? I am a Gandhi defender. I don't think it's edited poorly. I think it could have cut out several parts, but it's a larger story of who this guy was, and it really speaks to a way like one of the few times that I've really gotten into a biopic where I felt like the character was worth spending or investing some time into. It's a renowned world figure that I don't know nearly enough about. And every time I put on the film, I feel like I get in touch with who this person is and why their life matters, which is all I've ever asked for in any biopic. Too many times we just get a greatest hits album of this person lived and then they went to school here and then they got married here, and it just keeps going through it like a Wikipedia page. Nothing more synonymous with that for me than the recent Napoleon, where it just felt like, okay, in between battle scenes we're just going to have Wikipedia entries. This to me actually speaks to who this guy is, and it has a lot to do with Kingsley's performance, bringing out individual quality of what the man believed in, his value system, his nonviolent verbiage felt lived in, that Kingsley bought into all of the aura of who this guy was and put that out on screen so that you equally felt like you wanted to be a nonviolent pacifist to change the world. And I think it has a quality that I don't think people enough give it credit for, because it's a 3-hour film and it's a historical epic and whatever else. But I really don't think Gandhi's that far off for me from Lawrence of Arabia. And I know that that is like blasphemy for some people, but I really feel that way. I had no problem making Gandhi my first watch when I started prep for this.
This is going to be a very easy thing for me to clip out and just make sure that you're speaking to Dana and me winning the vote by saying how much you love Gandhi. So thank you for that. You're going against your actual pick, which I like. I appreciate that.
Whatever.
I know. I'm just messing with you. No, I was trying not to tip my hand to you privately about my Gandhi feelings, because I think that you maybe you were playing it up a little bit, but I think the preconceived notion was that I was going to slam Gandhi. And I think it's a very good film. Like, and I know we disagree about my ranking system, but I believe it's like a 7.5 out of 10, which for me is a very good movie. It's bordering on great.
Okay.
So that's where I stand with Gandhi.
I think in a way, some of your perception as anti-Oscars is somewhat earned, because you've spoken publicly that you think the Oscars gets it wrong a lot more than they get it right.
Fair.
You're willing to at least say they don't always get it wrong. And so my issue, or what I went into it with it, is, okay, Andrew normally thinks the Oscars is terribly wrong on all of these movies. Most people think Gandhi is minimally in the bottom half, if not the bottom quarter of Best Picture winners. And it's not that movie. It is probably in the middle if you're doing a rankings list. Like, I don't know offhand right now what it's ranked on my personal annual rankings that I put out every year after the Oscars when we add a new one. But I would guess that even for a defender such as me, it's probably not above 45. So even in a defenders category, there are so many other great Best Picture winners, but it does not deserve to be mentioned with Chariots of Fire or The Last Emperor or Driving Miss Daisy. It's not that film. It's a very good film that I think too many people think it's a long, boring epic.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I had a really good time going back and revisiting Gandhi after not seeing it for a long time, primarily because of Ben Kingsley. Quite frankly, he's sensational in the movie. So this is going to be your chance to determine if Kingsley deserved the win, because Dana, myself, the Academy, all together for a second category in a row now, where we all have Ben Kingsley and Gandhi, and once again Tom, all by himself, hoping, living on a prayer. But this time he's got a good chance with Paul Newman and The Verdict. I think Paul Newman's going to be pretty well represented by the general community online.
I feel good about that one, actually.
Yeah.
As it'll be a close vote, but I think he's got a good shot, just based on the perception that I was just mentioning with Gandhi. And I mean, Paul Newman having to wait until The Color of Money, where it's okay, he's not bad, but like, that was not what his Oscar win should have been for. Personally.
And if you might be able to remember better than I have a terrible memory these days, but I believe in our 1967 episode at the end of last year, when we did the revised lead actor, I believe Paul Newman and Cool Hand Luke won the revised lead actor there. So this might be his second. Yeah, I think he did. So this might be his second opportunity to win a revised award here. All right, we're going to switch over to director. But before we jump into director, Tom has a little surprise for us.
So, because next year we will have the Best Casting Oscar, I think it was worthy to at least talk about some of these films, particularly one that I thought stood out above the rest, as they would be if we had the casting Oscar available in the year that we're talking about. So, I made a short list of the best casted or best ensemble films. So much like the SAG Award has a best ensemble, and you two can pick at me whichever way you'd like. But here are my top 10 counting backward. I have Victor Victoria at 10. Just a slew of really good actors across the cast. The overall movie is not great, but as far as a stacked cast goes, I think there are a lot of really good people in that movie. 9, I have E.T. No one singularly shines necessarily, but nobody's bad in that movie. Even as you have a lot of children that are in that film, and there's some weird barbs and other stuff that children say that's in there, I don't think it's necessarily a poorly acted film, so I have that a little bit higher. But at the end of the day, it's still a lot of children actors that aren't as good or elevate the film. 8, I have Gandhi. This is one where I don't think that there's bad actors in it, but there's one performance that outshines the rest, so I have a hard time elevating it too much higher. 7, I have Blade Runner. Again, a very good cast all around. No real issues with that, but Now, here's where I'm going to draw some issues. Because I actually think there are a lot of good actors, and they're doing the acting roles that they're expected to do, but Rocky 3 is my number 6. Whether you agree with that or... Oh, no. Garp didn't actually make the top... Okay. I mean, Lithgow, Close, and Williams are all very good, but it's the rest of the weird cast that's around all of that, it drags it down. You've got 3 great lead performances, and then, everybody peripherally is just what the fuck is going on? Okay. Anyway, 5, I have Das Boot. I think it's a very good overall cast. I'm glad we could separate Prochnow, but I think universally the entire cast is kind of deserving of that one. 4, I have Sophie's Choice. Primarily because it's a very limited cast. You have really only 3 primary actors, and then you have some other surrounding parts. But this was probably the most realistic portrayal of what the Holocaust was prior to Schindler's List. And for many people, there are a lot of good actors surrounding that portion of it. Then you obviously have my winner for supporting actor in Kevin Kline. You have an all-time performance by Streep. I think those elevate it slightly in that category. Then I have The Verdict. Again, James Mason, Jack Warden, Charlotte Rampling, Paul Newman. I mean, 4 great performances, and you get some very good, stellar, minor performances as well in this. 2, I have Tootsie. Even though I didn't have it for singular acting nominations outside of Jessica Lange, again, you have a lot of very good people. Bill Murray's decent in the movie, even though he's not particularly memorable, but it's not like he's doing anything to drag it down. And I think Bill Murray is a better actor than people have given him credit for at times. So then you've got Terry Garr and Jessica Lange and on and on and on through the rest of the cast, Charles Durning. Even Dustin Hoffman doesn't quite drag this down. But for me, there was one clear winner above the rest, and it's for finding all of the amazing young talent that they did at the time. For me, if I were casting director Oscar at the time, I'm going for Ellen Chenoweth for Diner and Barry Levinson's initial review or initial film. There are so many good young actors before they become good young actors. Tim Daly, Paul Reiser, Ellen Barkin. We'll just go through all of them here, but Bacon. I mean, Kevin Bacon, Mickey Rourke. They found so many good young actors, and they all work really well in this almost seamless friend group. It's kind of what I would have wanted a high school movie to be in this moment before we got to John Hughes. And maybe in contrast, where this movie is put up against something like Fast Times, where I just don't relate to those characters at all, I feel much more camaraderie with the characters from Diner and kind of their life circumstances and how they hang out and what they do with their lives and how they converse with each other that I don't in some of the other films. So I don't know if either of you had even considered this category prior to this. I know it's somewhat of a surprise, but I just wanted to throw out the possibility because as we introduce a new Oscar, it might be fun to occasionally look back, especially because I've been clamoring for a Best Ensemble Oscar for a while, and casting's about the best we're going to get. Maybe you have another nominee or would like to pick on any of my top 10.
Well, I was going to say, what if we put... I've got another nominee that as soon as you mentioned this category, something came into mind. I was going to try to figure out how high you had it up. Maybe I'll throw out my nomination, what I think should have been. See if Dana, where he goes. Maybe we throw this up to an online vote and see what the community thinks had the best cast. I would personally pick Das Boot. Just usually when I think of like casting and a movie like this, where there's almost no actor of prominence, like you've never seen or heard any of these people, they almost feel like just they pulled people off the street, and that's a hard thing to pull off. And I would probably go Das Boot if I had to pick one film where I just thought across the board all the actors were working on the same level. So
and I would certainly have no issue with that.
That'd be my pick.
Dad?
For me, ensemble cast, a bunch of nobodies other than Peter O'Toole, and that's my favorite year.
Okay.
I mean, several of them kind of came on, but Bill Macy, who had been on Maude, was in it. So predominantly a TV actor. A bunch of other people that, didn't have big careers, but they worked well together. And so, yeah.
Okay, so if I'll throw this up to a vote, and we'll let people decide what the best ensemble of 1982 was. Was it My Favorite Year? Was it Diner? Was it Das Boot? If people enjoy this, we'll just make this a new recurring Tom Duncan award for the future.
Yes, just another category I created for myself to lose another vote.
Yeah.
You got some more trivia for us before we jump into director?
I do, of course. Best Actor winner Ben Kingsley, star of stage and screen, has been nominated for 3 of the 4 categories for an EGOT, winning 2 of the legs. Which award has he not been nominated for?
This feels like a trick question. I'm going to say Emmy.
Okay. Dad?
Grammy.
Okay. It is Tony. He has been nominated 4 times for an Oscar, winning for Gandhi. He has been nominated 4 times for an Emmy and never won. He has been twice nominated for a Grammy, and he won for the Best Spoken Word Album, The Words of Gandhi.
Okay.
That's good. Good stuff.
Hello. My name is Jennifer Hahn.
And I'm Sarah Callan. And Movies and Us is a weekly gathering place filled with conversations about movies, stories, and connection.
Our name, Movies and Us, sums it up. We're all about movies and the powerful ways we can connect with each other and the world around us. This film podcast is all about us and our shared stories.
And so we invite you to join us in conversations about movies and the stories that connect us. So you can follow Movies and Us wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube at Movies and Us.
All right, let's jump over to director now. So here are the 5 people we had nominated for director in 82. You had Wolfgang Peterson for Das Boot, Steven Spielberg for E.T. the Extraterrestrial, Sidney Pollack for Tootsie, Sidney Lumet for The Verdict, and the Oscar went to Richard Attenborough for his work on Gandhi. Tom, you're going to lead us off on this one.
So, honorable mentions here. I think Francis is a good movie that's fundamentally well directed, but it's a star performance leading movie, so it gets knocked a little bit there because, again, you have somebody that's really leading it as opposed to somebody who's really directing it. Richard Attenborough, unfortunately, suffers the same thing. I don't think it's necessarily a poorly directed movie, but there's nothing of like substance or flair that I can really put my finger on that says, oh, this is like truly well directed. It's more of a lead actor performance for me than it is necessarily a best directed film. Sidney Lumet, as much as I love him, and I had him twice in my top 3 of my official submission for the CLP rankings, I don't know if this is one where I say like he did a great job. I think this is much more actors doing a really decent script than it is necessarily anything about his particular direction for the verdict. 6, I have Barry Levinson for Diner. My last cut, really tough to try and cut him out, but I think there are others that deserve it a little bit more. So 5, I have Costa Gavras for Missing. 4, I have John Carpenter for The Thing. 3, I have Ridley Scott for Blade Runner. Even the theatrical cut, you can definitely still see some of the genius there, even if it is an imperfect film. 2, I have Wolfgang Petersen for Das Boot. And yet again, of course I did it, I have Steven Spielberg for E.T. We'll take the low-hanging fruit, but frankly, Steven Spielberg speaks a language that I just relate to, and there's a reason he's the GOAT.
How high do you have this on your Spielberg list?
My Spielberg power rankings?
Yeah. Where would you put E.T.?
As much as E.T. is like a celebrated film, it's below Jaws, it's below Close Encounters for me, which I'm a defender of Close Encounters. It's below Raiders, it's below Last Crusade, it's below Jurassic Park and Schindler's List, it's below Saving Private Ryan. It's more in the conversation to me where you start getting a little bit further down the list of like some of those next ones of Catch Me If You Can and probably some of his more recent work with like West Side Story and The Fabelmans and such. It's not down there with like The Post, which, you know, okay.
How about
And
1942?
Oof.
Well, that's in a class by itself. And also, for what it's worth, having listened to the 1991 episode this morning, like, it ranks above Hook, but it's not really that much separation for me between E.T. and Hook. So, I guess this is the official Hook Defender podcast, but...
So I'm gonna be. It's gonna be on my tombstone, even though I've never said anything. But yeah, what does it say about Spielberg? Where like we're talking like for you, second tier down, still the best of the year. Like he's the GOAT, right? For you?
Yeah, like there's only one other person that I would say has even a claim to it, and that's Hitchcock for me, just due to his overall depth and longevity and how many great films he has in his oeuvre. Like, I think by nominations for the CLP, those are the only 2 that had like 8 or more. I think Hitchcock had 10 different films nominated for the CLP rankings, and we had 8 from Spielberg. So it gets up there. Like, we had a couple others that were 7-ish. Like, I think Kurosawa might have also gotten to 8. But there are just not a lot of directors with that level of longevity and quality.
Yeah, it's true. I'm right there with you. Okay, we'll go to mine. We'll finish off with Dana in this category. So, honorable mentions really quickly. Tom mentioned him. Costa Gavras for Missing. You had him in your 5, but he was just outside for me. Really wonderful stuff what he does with that movie. Werner Herzog for Fitzcarraldo. Just because he's so insane that he literally took a boat into the jungle and physically moved that thing instead of trying to do it like on a soundstage or whatever. Like he's just a madman. Werner Herzog's a crazy person. So good for you. Good for you for trying. Richard Attenborough for Gandhi, honorable mention. Again, that movie just gets sort of disregarded too often. It's a very you have really made me think honestly, Tom, in terms of the comparison to Lawrence of Arabia, which is one of my, on the CLP list, which is a list that a bunch of people have compiled. It was one of my top 50 movies that I consider one of the 50 best movies. I don't know if I'm putting Gandhi in that level, but I can 100% understand the comparison. You make a very valid argument for the comparison.
Let me clarify before I become the new TikTok star of your show that I'm not saying they're necessarily in the same class, but I'm also saying they're not divided in some of their quality that far apart from what people have said. Lawrence is clearly the better film. I will make no bones about that. But it's not because of the lead performance. Like Peter O'Toole in Lawrence is somewhat similar or equal to me as Kingsley is in Gandhi. But the difference is David Lean is a superior director to Richard Attenborough, and it's not close.
Fair. Completely fair. Yeah. But I do think Attenborough deserves to at least have an honorable mention for this particular category. So I'm glad you also threw it out there. And then my final honorable mention, I'm tired of this guy not getting credited for what he did with Poltergeist, goddammit. Tobe Hooper is the director of that movie. I understand that it can feel like a Spielberg movie at times, as most Amblin films do. Spielberg's not the type of producer to not be directly involved, especially when this is one of the very, very first things he's involved with the production side of. However, Tobe Hooper is the director of Poltergeist. He deserves the honorable mention, and he alone. If you want to rebuttal there, Tom, I will let you.
Nah, I'm good.
Okay.
There's been enough ink spilled on it, and I don't feel like arguing over a movie that I will probably never watch again.
I'm just proud you made it through it, and you didn't seem to be completely like terrified by it, because it's really not that strong into like the horror realm.
Honestly, I had more of a difficult time with The Thing and going back to that than I did going through Poltergeist.
Yeah, I remember you seemed really trepidatious around it, and I was like, you'll be fine. Okay,
Yeah.
so the 5 directors that I do have for 82. First off, I've got Ridley Scott for Blade Runner. Ahead of its time. That movie is just light years ahead of anything else in 1982 in terms of what it's doing. I've got Wolfgang Petersen for Das Boot. I think he creates something really compelling with the claustrophobia of the environment. It's an incredibly underrated war film. I think more, and I understand that the runtime is incredibly hard to get through, but it's worth your time. Like Dana said, skip to the final 40 if you really want to. Like, it's got a really good final climactic third act. So he gets in there. Steven Spielberg for E.T. It's the 5th time I've nominated him now in a 4th decade. I also believe that Spielberg's the GOAT for me personally. Just his body of work is too large. He's done too many things in terms of scale, size, critically acclaimed, box office. There's no one else that's done what Spielberg's done. So he's in there with E.T. My wild card pick really is Rainer Werner Fassbinder for a film called Carell, which is in the Criterion Collection. It's on HBO Max. It is, all I will say about Carell, if you've not seen it, it is possibly the horniest movie I have ever seen that's not like X-rated. And it's borderline. But it is a film that will leave you hot and bothered. So go check out Carell, which is
something to watch with the kids.
It'll be a while. And it also has,
you brought up at the kids' birthday party conversations you were having today.
That'd be a surefire way to clear the table. I could usually, get some space to myself if I brought that up. And then 5th and final nominee is going to go to John Carpenter for The Thing. I could make a case for most of these particular directors here, but I'm going to go with the person that I think I'm trying to, since we're not dealing with all like the lower categories, I'm trying to also consider the screenplay and everything else that goes into what a director does. And I think what John Carpenter does with The Thing is going to get my win. He has to manage the practical effects that are still to this day considered the gold standard for what any film has done, quite honestly, in the horror, the sci-fi realm, in terms of all the effects that are happening with The Thing in that movie. The way he slow burns the story is really smart. It's a sophisticated story. It's got some layers to it. and it also still feels like you can kind of stay tethered to it. And then obviously the way he ends that film, I am a sucker for an ambiguous ending, and I think that the movie has one of the great endings in film. I think it's a bona fide 10 out of 10 movie. I don't know if I think Halloween or The Thing is the better directed John Carpenter movie. It's close. Maybe you catch me on a different day. I'll say one or the other. Today I'm going to say The Thing is the best directed John Carpenter movie. It's going to get my win. Over to Dana.
Okay. I actually have honorable mentions. I have Barry Levinson and Richard Attenborough for the reasons we're indicating. I actually have Levinson ahead of Attenborough. My 5, though, are I have John Carpenter as 5, Alan J. Pakula as 4 for Sophie's Choice. I think, and I have Sidney Lumet as my 3rd. And quite frankly, Tom, I'm a little surprised when you're talking about acting performances, because directors have a tendency to really control a lot of what an acting performance is. They a lot of times have the ability to draw out or to rein in acting performances. And a good director can find the subtleties that are necessary to play a particular part. And I think that both Pakula and Lumet were instrumental in the performances that were provided by the main actors. I have Spielberg as my number 2, simply because it's Sir Stephen. And my number 1, I have Wolfgang Petersen for Das Boot, which is probably hinting as to where I'm going with Best Picture.
No complaints there. I think those are 3 very strong contenders to go up against Attenborough in the vote. So we're going to have, this is the first time we'll have 4 different options, and the first time Dana has veered away from the Academy for this particular episode. You can side with Tom. He's got Spielberg with E.T. You can side with me. I've got John Carpenter in The Thing. Dana's got Wolfgang Petersen for Das Boot. And the Academy had Richard Attenborough for Gandhi. So a lot of different options to go there. Also, don't forget, we got the best ensemble added too. So we'll get to, we're going to have a litany of online votes this month. It'll be, you're going to be getting votes out your ass.
More online content, huh?
Everyone loves more online content from the Rev Almanac channel. All right, Tom, before we get to Best Picture, you got any trivia?
I do. Steven Spielberg has 9 nominations for Best Director and 2 wins. Which 2 directors have received more nominations than he has?
John Ford?
No. I think Spielberg is the only one to have been nominated in 5 separate decades, though, too.
Billy Wilder?
Nope.
More than 9. Wow, that's a lot.
This came up just recently, too.
I'm drawing a total blank. I mean, I could throw out some guesses, but I'm sure they're probably not right.
Well, one is, I think, your personal favorite director.
My personal favorite?
I think so, yeah. Unless your favorite is Spielberg, but this other person is...
So Marty.
Yeah. Marty's got 10.
10? Wow, okay.
He most recently, and this is why it came up, he's one short of the record when he got Killers of the Flower Moon nominated 2 years ago.
Oh, man. Who has 11?
This one's more of a classic throwback.
So it's got to be one of the early years where they were just getting nominated every single damn year, like Capra or somebody. But it's not Capra.
It's not Capra.
Yeah.
But you're on the right track.
Yeah.
So you've already thrown out Ford.
We got
You've already
Wyler?
William Wyler has 11.
Wow. Do you know the 11 offhand?
Oh, I mean, I could look him up, but I know there's obviously like Wuthering Heights. He got 4-1. I know he was nominated in 1942 for Mrs. Miniver. I mean, he's got Ben-Hur. I mean, he had like 3 decades worth of stuff. So Best Years of Our Lives. He's got 3 wins. Right. So he is tied for second in most wins with Billy Wilder at 3, and Ford has 4. But other than that, you know, it was just like he got nominated almost every year for.
Do you think Marty will catch him? Just based on like age and because Marty just doesn't put out a lot of movies with any regularity. I'm going to say no.
I think he does.
Okay.
But only on the standpoint that I know Marty's got this like Christ project thing coming out, but then he's also got several other things in the hopper, and I think it's going to be very tempting for people to put him up for Best Director to get him the nominations record or tie it.
Yeah, you could make the case that he's sort of like the Streep of the directors, where sometimes they just throw him in the mix.
I mean, he and Spielberg have been nominated multiple times in the last like 10 years. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that 2 guys in their 70s can still, at least for some people, make great movies. I think Spielberg personally has had him beat over the ones that he's gotten nominated for most recently, but your mileage may vary.
Well, and Eastwood's been, producing movies into his mid-90s. Although
he will never see a nomination again.
Yeah, when he got when he last produced a good film, that's another question.
When was Gran Torino? 20-something years ago?
2008. A film a year I was supposed to cover with you last year.
Yep. We will return to that maybe one day.
Yeah. It's going to be after law school. I think I had 54 films on that short list to watch.
It's a really big year.
It's a long year.
Yeah. All right, let's get to Best Picture now, and we will close this thing out. So, actual nominees in 82 were E.T. the Extraterrestrial, Gandhi, Missing, Tootsie, and The Verdict, with Gandhi taking the top prize. So again, 5 nominated films that year, so we'll adhere to those rules. We'll stick to 5. I'll start us off this time, and then you guys can close things out. So, if this was a field of 10, I'll give you my 5 that are just out of the 5 that I'm going to give. So, from 10 to 6, I've got Missing, Fitzcarraldo, Poltergeist, Tootsie, and The Verdict. I think those are all very good to really great movies. They're just outside. But I do think the 5 is pretty, for me, it's an uncompromised 5. I don't see any way anything else is going to get into this 5. Number 1, Blade Runner, a science fiction masterpiece. Just is what it is. Number 2, Das Boot, a harrowing war masterpiece. Number 3, E.T., another science fiction masterpiece, or possibly the scariest movie ever made, depending on who you are. Number 4, I've got First Blood. I think it's one of the 5 best movies of that year because I think it is actually a really contemplative movie about post-Vietnam and the way that we and some Americans treated soldiers coming back. I think it has to be in the 5 for me.
If nothing else, it's highly influential because you could say that it kicks off between this and Conan, it kicks off the race between Stallone and Schwarzenegger as like the action film king. This is probably the most thought out of the Stallone movies by a good measure. And I think Schwarzenegger picked better directors and projects, but okay.
I think First Blood's pretty tight too. The runtime is nice and lean, and it gets to business pretty quick. And
it's
then
a quick 90.
Yeah, it's right there for me. I love it. Number 5 though is The Thing, which is again another science fiction horror masterpiece. It's a 2-horse race though. If you know me, you know the 2 movies that are the ones I was wrestling with: Blade Runner and The Thing. Those are both. I believe those were both on my Cinema Legacy poll top 50. But I'm sure it's not that much of a surprise. Blade Runner is going to get my win, theatrical cut and all. I don't personally prefer the theatrical cut. I like the final cut, but I do understand the idea of like adding that sort of neo-noir narration to the film. But it's about so much more than the narration and everything that's happening there. It's the idea of, how do we identify as living beings? What do we want to do with our life? How much can we control before we no longer exist? All of these deep philosophical themes, I think, are there, and I think the movie's only getting more and more prescient as we get closer to an eventual integration with artificial intelligence, which we're heading towards at a pretty rapid rate. I think this movie is incredibly complex and still pulls me back all these years later. It's just a perfect science fiction movie for me. I love Blade Runner. It's my favorite movie of 1982, and I think it's also the best. Okay, Dana, let's go over to you now.
All right. Outside of mine, I had my favorite year. I also had outside, just outside, I had Diner. But my 5 are in reverse order. 5, I have The Thing. 4, I have The Verdict. 3, I have E.T. 2, I have Francis. And the best picture is Das Boot. I find it ironic that I think that this is probably the second best war film I think I've seen after Saving Private Ryan. Because both are about the mission and why we fight, but I have to say Das Boot has a different feel because it's really an anti-war film. And the 2 best anti-war films I think I've seen in the last several years have been this and All Quiet on the Western Front, both German. And you don't think of Germans as being the ones who are anti-war. But I think after having started 3 of the largest conflicts in Europe over the last 150 years, they probably know enough about pacifism and the need for it than anybody. But I do believe it is by far the best film of that year. In fact, before we did the legacy poll, I wish I'd have seen this because it would have been in my 50. So,
great choice. Love Das Boot. I'm assuming you probably haven't seen the film from 1985, which is, I think, also in the same category of the best anti-war films ever. It was on my Cinema Legacy poll list. It's called Come and See from 1985. I would highly recommend you finding time for that. If you love Das Boot and what it does and All Quiet and what it does as far as its anti-war message, I think Come and See is the defining anti-war film in a very crowded, strong field. So hopefully you go find some time in the next come months. Check out Come and See. Okay, Tom, let's go over to you now.
All right, so my first cut, let's say, is Blade Runner, only from the standpoint that I made the objection early on, trying to throw a monkey wrench in it for you, but the final cut is so much better than the theatrical cut. It's not close as far as like a coherent story, but I have to respect it as a total film, even for what it came out as, even in the theatrical version. But had Ridley Scott gotten full control to do exactly what he wanted, I think this could have very easily competed. But like you said, it was ahead of its time, much in the same way kind of Alien was well ahead of its time. And unfortunately, Ridley Scott is well behind his time for the last 25 to 30 years. Anyway, I digress. The Verdict is also just out for me. It's at my number 7. Diner and Francis were at my 8 and 9. So, some films that we've mentioned tonight, but I think my 5 is pretty comfortable. 5, The Thing. I had Carpenter in it for direction, and I had Kurt Russell just out, but I think he does a very good suspenseful movie in that, and I think he creates a good ambiance that works as a whole, so much so that I can't necessarily pick out individual parts that really worked well, but for a horror film, and I'm a noted wuss when it comes to horror films, they're not my thing, but I can respect enough of it to have it here, even if it is not something I personally gravitate to the most. 4, I have Das Boot. I agree with my father. I had a couple other ones that hit me a little bit better than this. 3, I had Missing. I guess I'll be the champion on this one. I thought that movie hit me in probably the same way that Das Boot hit Dana. That I thought it was a good commentary, particularly as we get into this notion. I thought it really aged well I make no secret that I'm a flaming liberal, and that in the current authoritarian era of our country, that this could seemingly happen, and it became much more of a horror film for me. I think it's a little heavy-handed in spots, particularly with the score, but outside of that, I thought it was a really good movie inside of what it's trying to accomplish with exposing our government's role in supporting authoritarianism across the world, and that we're not clean in a lot of the actions that we've taken as we've been a world leader. And maybe America needs to reckon with some of the mistakes that we've made. 2, I've already gone on enough of a rally for Gandhi here, but Gandhi's number 2 here on this for me. And this was a really hard choice. I really kind of wanted to have Gandhi and really stick up for it. I think I've done an adequate job even at number 2, and you guys did have Ben Kingsley, so I think it's gotten its flowers, but E.T. does a couple of things here as a magic trick that Spielberg's just great at doing. He combines a lot of different genres here. He's got some comedy, he's got some sci-fi, he's got fantasy, he's got horror in the elements of this. Like, I guess it had been a while since I'd seen E.T. again, but the early parts of this film, like, I get it why kids could have been scared by it, but I think that was kind of the point, is you wanted to be scared, but by the middle portion where you kind of make friends with it, and then the rest of this, I just felt that it pulled off something in an emotional way that seemingly only Steven Spielberg can. He reaches inside you and finds that vulnerable spot. And I think I've said it on our show multiple times that a lot of cinephiles are lonely children where their only friends are characters in movies. And that's what this movie feels like to me. It's the Steven Spielberg equivalent of saying, I see you as a vulnerable kid, and here's a friend. And so that, for whatever reason, just really connected with me in a way that it probably hadn't before. And it just gets a little bit of an edge over Gandhi as the sentimental favorite. So I will take the low-hanging fruit and go E.T. here, which I think there's been a lot of ink spilled over whether E.T. should have beaten Gandhi in that year. And I think that's part of the reason Gandhi gets a bad rap. But I'll go with E.T. here as the upset.
That is a wonderful, strong 4 right there. Should have a lot of fun with the vote, quite honestly. I could see it going a couple different ways. I've got Blade Runner. Dana's got Das Boot. Tom's got E.T. The Academy's got Gandhi. I hope everyone also takes the time to check out all of those movies. If you're not familiar with any of those 4, any of the movies we've mentioned before you vote, check them out. Go give it a fair shot. Don't just pick the name that you're the most recognizable name out there. I do think it's worth your time to check out everything that's nominated. And most of the time, the listeners of this show tell me that they are seeking these things out before they vote. So should have a lot of fun with that. All right, before we wrap things up, though, I want to remind everybody I'm going to be taking time to answer all the 1982 listener questions submitted in a mailbag episode, which comes out a week after this. If Dana and Tom have time, not that they have anything busy going on in their lives, But if they have time, they may join me as well for some 82 listener questions. I always appreciate getting those. Before we wrap things up, Tom, I don't know if you have any more trivia or anything you want to throw my way.
Well, I'll throw out a potentially troublesome one here, but which previous Best Actor winner invited the audience to watch the planned clip video of the Gene Horschel Award at his house when the clip wouldn't play prior to awarding Mickey Rooney at the award ceremony? So this was kind of one of these, like, if you go back and, not that I would encourage anyone to go back and watch previous Oscars, but Andrew often does. If you go to the moment when they used to present the humanitarian or the honorary Oscar award to somebody, they actually did it during the ceremony. And there's this weird, awkward moment that I did go back and watch where this previous Best Actor winner is on stage and they're trying to get this whole like clip thing to play and it just won't play. So he's riffing in real time and he's just like, nah, you guys can all come back to my house and watch it.
Gregory Peck.
That's not a bad guess. But that one would be less creepy than this one.
I skipped. I only went back and watched the YouTube clips for the actual categories we were covering. But I feel like I saw one that was really long. Maybe this is that particular one where usually they're like 4 or 5 minute clips. And I remember seeing one long clip for 82, so it might have been this one. I have no idea who was. I remember seeing a bunch of people on that stage. Not a clue. Walter Matthau.
Charlton Heston.
Ooh. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Did you want to hear my take on the verdict, by the way?
Yes, please. Please do.
Okay. Let me just give this. Okay. The minute Paul Newman found out about Charlotte Rampling's deception and her payment from James Mason, that was his golden ticket. He shouldn't have said a word. He shouldn't have told Rampling. He shouldn't have done anything. Because if he loses the trial, he goes in and points out this whole thing to the judge. It's a mistrial. They're done. And if he wins, he goes to James Mason and says, well, do you want to be disbarred or would you like to make sure you don't appeal my victory?
Well, that's how Dana would have handled it, but we got through 3/4 of the film to know that Paul Newman is not a very good lawyer.
Where do you rank the verdict on accurate courtroom films?
Oh, I've known lawyers like him in real life.
Okay.
And such. So that aspect is pretty realistic.
Okay.
The underlying case and the power and the money and such from the church and all that, pretty accurate. I would probably say it's fairly realistic. The outcome is a little unrealistic, but it's not that bad. I mean, there are a lot of courtroom trial stuff that are cases that are much more accurate. I think probably Anatomy for a Murder is one of the most accurate. I've had the same conversation with clients that James Stewart had in the cell with his client. Almost verbatim.
If you had to pinpoint a really bad representation of courtroom etiquette on film or whatever, do you have any that you're like, wow, that's like really terrible?
Boy, I'm having a hard time coming up with one that wouldn't be absurd. You know, actually, as far as accuracy, it's a comedy and it's absurd, but My Cousin Vinny is not that far off. In fact, it's taught or shown at a lot of law schools as the ability to effectively cross-examine witnesses. Because, you know, I mean, when he's got the guy on there and he's going, so your grits cook faster than any other grits in the entire world. You know, that is so great. I've used tactics like that. And so I can't really come up with a poor adaptation off the top of my head. But
I'm sure you got something, Tom, that you've maybe just. I mean, you're
Oh,
still
there
obviously.
there are some terrible ones based on Grisham movies from the 90s.
Okay.
okay, The Firm.
Well, The Firm doesn't really handle anything particularly in the courtroom, but there's some terrible stuff in what's the Matthew McConaughey one that I recently watched that's mid-90s?
Lincoln Lawyer?
No. It's a Grisham novel from the mid-90s.
Time to Kill.
Time to Kill.
Yeah.
There's
Sandra.
some bad stuff in that. Juror number 2 has some bad courtroom stuff in it. I'm trying to think like other real. Oh, the film is not meant to be that way, but as far as like unrealistic courtroom stuff happens, it's a decent film, but Adam's rib is like ridiculous. So, yeah.
If you have any inquiries about courtroom dramas and their accuracy, please email GMOAT Podcast at gmail.com, I believe.
I told Dad that he should start his like Dana grades courtroom dramas or like episodes of Suits or any of these like old Law and Order episodes. He'd get a huge TikTok following.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Everybody in our Discord agreed, and yet he has yet to do it.
I'm trying to get to a point where I have more free time, so then I will probably do something like that because it would be kind of fun. I mean, Suits is just disbarment written all over it.
Oh yeah, well, we won't even get into the fact that the entire premise for the show is just stupid, but enjoyable. It's a highly entertaining show that I watched from start to finish, both when it went through its craze recently, but also when it was first on. But it is ridiculously inaccurate. And no, lawyering is not nearly that entertaining. It is mostly boring.
Yeah.
I'll take your word for it. All right. That's going to do it for the recording. But as I always say, this is just the beginning of the process. So our picks have been made. It's up to you now, the fans, to decide what goes into the Almanac as the true winner. I'll be putting up social media polls across 5 platforms in the coming days. Need your votes to be cast. Again, the more places you follow the show, the more opportunities you have to vote for the things that you want. Before I sign off, though, I do want to see what's on the way from Greatest Movie of All Time podcast. So this will be coming up on Friday, October the 3rd. Tom, why don't you tell us what you have in store for October, November, rest of the year, whatever you got coming up.
Well, as this is coming out, I'm sure we're in the middle of all of the releases as we've done these individual weekly periodic releases throughout the course of the fall, and ending on Christmas Eve will be our number 1 and number 2 films from the CLP list that Andrew was a contributor towards. And as I mentioned right at the top of this episode, was a major proponent of in trying to help create and foster and whatever else you want to insert there. But as far as episodes that we're going to be releasing here, we have Rebel Without a Cause releasing next Wednesday. We have All About Eve coming up also the week after, Requiem for a Dream with Heather Stewart coming up on the 22nd. And to round out the month, we did a solid for my mother. This is a film that she saw once, I think, and really loved. And so I put it on the list just for her because she's our most frequent guest. Men of Honor with Robert De Niro and Cuba Gooding Jr.
Yeah.
A sentimental sea diver film.
Yes, and she could never remember the name.
That's going to stand out like a sore thumb on the GMOAT scoring list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she will be on back-to-back episodes because the following week we're going to do another sentimental favorite of hers, The American President. But she will be joined by frequent collaborator Adam Freed for that episode. So we have plenty of stuff coming up on GMOAT and plenty more throughout the fall. We've got a lot of bangers after that one. Basically from that through the end of Christmas, you can basically expect a pretty decent movie that you have some name ID with going up through all of our individual releases. And if you don't want to catch our episode, but you want to give us a small download and just listen to that CLP thing, we have those chapterized so you can just come and get in on the one chapter where it says CLP and then leave, and we still get the download. So that's all good by me.
Yeah, and I'll be counting down my 50 my submitted 50 list in like a 5-part series. So I'll be counting down from 50 to 1 between when this episode drops and the end of the year, kind of in conjunction with the full list that's going to be going up on GMOAT. And then already we've got like a majority of the collaborators who submitted public lists who already said that they wanted to take time and record themselves sort of talking through their list. I think people have had a lot of fun doing this project. And so on this channel, you'll probably hear a bunch of the other participants of that. And there'll be a ton of stuff directed over towards GMOAT. So make sure you're following along with GMOAT and keeping track week to week so you can see what those movies are. I have been privy to the master list, and I can tell you that it's a really strong composite list of the 120 best ranked.
And ties.
And ties, yeah. So technically there's 122 films.
Yes.
But it's a strong crop of movies, and like what just missed the top kind of is an indicator of just how strong the actual group is. There will be some surprises in there, some interesting choices, and yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. So you guys put in a ton of work.
Well, and we've had a lot of support as well. So
Yes.
I don't want to discredit in any way. This has been a very community level project, and for what it's worth, I suppose I should say I keep referring to it as CLP, and I would hope that moniker kind of sticks, but it's kind of like saying GMOAT without saying the full name. So you can catch us at GMOAT Podcast on any of the socials, but that means Greatest Movie of All Time Podcast, which you can find on any of your podcast platforms or on YouTube, where you can find all the video versions of our episodes, at least for about the last year and a half. But the CLP refers to the Cinema Legacy Poll, which hopefully by now is a little bit more ingrained in the community by the time this episode actually comes out from where we're recording it. But that being said, just explaining the further, CLP is Cinema Legacy Poll.
Yep. All right. And then look out for the upcoming 11th episode of this show this season in November. I'm going to be joined by 2 first-time guests, but they are friends of all 3 of us here in the room. They're my personal favorite movie podcast. I apologize to GMOAT and all of my other movie podcast friends, but Jen and Sarah,
they deserve it.
They're wonderful. Jen and Sarah over at Movies and Us. I love talking to the 2 of them. I'm really excited to dive into the year 2003. So we're going to be talking about the second Lord of the Rings film to come up on this show. That's the year Return of the King won Best Picture. But you've got Lost in Translation, Master and Commander, Mystic River, Seabiscuit, Pirates of the Caribbean, whole bunch of stuff that year. Should be a lot of fun to dive into that with Jen and Sarah. Have no clue where they're going to go with their picks. All we've talked about is the Last Samurai 5 times watching that movie. But okay. Yeah, I indeed watched that movie 5 times for the show. Okay.
You do you, man.
You can find me on Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter, Letterboxd, Threads, TikTok, everywhere, Rev Almanac. There's going to be timestamps on this, so you can go back and listen to a particular spot if you want to check something out as you prepare for your vote. It's always a pleasure talking to Dana and Tom. Sadly, I don't think the 3 of us are going to be reconvening for a long, long time. I mean, probably the next time we'll get together is like your Oscars Monday after the big show.
Most likely, because I think your next actual guest appearance on our show isn't until probably
that thing
next...
you
do? I think La La Land is before that, but those are your 2 for next year that you've strategically chosen. Let's see here. Just trying to look through this. Yeah, La La Land is not till August.
Wow.
You know what? I got this wrong. I had the recording schedule for all of these, so those ones that I read off are actually later. So, oh well. This is my problem too, is keeping everything straight. But and then that thing you do. That's not till September.
Okay.
So yeah, it's probably going to be quite a while as far as that goes.
All right. Always good talking to you guys. I'm Andrew, and I say to you, namaste.